Hey, happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Center Live overnight. Just making sure all my new equipment is working and fine and that you can all hear me. If you're in the chat and you can't hear me, say something. Otherwise, we're going to go forth. Got my cat ears on. Although I have my seat is too high. My goodness. Here we go. All right. So thank you for joining me. It is now 9:37 p.m. Pacific Time, September 3rd, 2022. I am here. I am your ferryman to shepherd you from September 3rd on to September 4th. And we got a lot going on as far as the weekend goes. We had a wrestling pay-per-view this morning, and we also ended up, we're going to have one tomorrow with AEW All Out. Going to just basically talk random stuff. Let's see. Thanks, that dude. Couple member chats got dropped. It doesn't show me on this. Thanks, that dude. Let me see. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna go into the screen. All right, member for 22 months. I'm pretty sure that's more the Poindexter Lounge than it is me. But I thank you for choosing my show to express that, Jeff. I don't want to mispronounce your name. Giafelli. All right, and then that dude Vince, member for 18 months. I've seen you all around and happy to have you on. So those, I don't know why the two member chats don't show up. I think it's because I'm on his YouTube studio. I think I have to be on Enoch's inside their studio because I know they've had difficulty saying those. But thank you guys for being members for 22 and 18 months respectively. And wow, another hot day in Vegas. I know you probably guys are tired of hearing me say that, but it's September 3rd, moving into September 4th. I really wish it would act like it. Another 110-degree day. It's supposed to be this way all the way up to Wednesday, but then after that, it should start plunging. It should start plunging and getting into that fall, that dead leaf weather that I fought my way to get to. So, thanks for making it, Damien. Nice to see you. Let's see that dude's going on. Yeah, make sure you guys, if you get a chance to Fourth 1000, if you get a chance to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I do a lot of the live streams. In fact, all the live streams, most of the live streams I do are going to be on this network. And then the tutorial stuff, the quick stuff, the As Seen on TV, the things that have to do with content as far as like the stuff I'm into, the stuff I sell, wrestling live streams from wrestling events. Next week we'll be at New Japan's in PW Strong. That'll be taking place here September 11th. I'll be going to that show. I will be ringside for that show, so I will have my championship belts with me because I plan on meeting Jay White at the meet and greet and getting both of the IWGP heavyweight title signed and the U.S. title, both of which he's held signed. So I will probably try to do some type of streaming from the actual event itself as much as they'll allow me to. And I'll probably get some pictures taken of me and him and some of the other guys that'll be there from the Bullet Club. But yeah, it's going to be my first Vegas New Japan event, so I'm happy. Anytime I can be ringside at any wrestling event of any level is cool. So it's not an opportunity to get much. So I will be celebrating my birthday week. My birthday is on September 7th, and I will be 4 days later. I will be at a wrestling event, and then I'll come back, and then we will do a live stream later on that evening. That'll be Game of Thrones. Our post-game show for House of the Dragon will happen later because I will be at the aforementioned wrestling show. So. All right, hey, William, went to see Bullet Train today. Thought it was a good movie. I've heard mixed reviews about it, but from that trailer looks awesome. That trailer looks like it's a fast-moving movie that just doesn't let up. I have not had a chance to see it yet. There's a couple movies, and that one's on my list. But Bullet Train, I wanted to see it the night it came out, but I ended up having a lot of stuff to do. And I just didn't have the energy to get to the theater that day to watch it. But yeah, like I said, if the trailers, a lot of times you'll see trailers that are really kick ass, and then you go to the movie and then it's a disappointment. But from the people that are like-minded movies like that are into the kind of stuff that I like, so far everybody's telling me I need to go see Bullet Train, so I'm gonna have to make some time for that. All right. So I got the member chats. At a bar, tuning up, have fun with the stream. Oh, tuning up for what? What's going on, man? I have to see you up on the news tuning up for something, a crime. No, I'm just kidding. Wherever you're tuning up for, good luck with it. Have fun. Stay safe. All right. No, I haven't. I haven't. That came and went. I'm going to see that. Is that on streaming? If that's on streaming, I'm probably going to get together a bunch of my buddies because we have a 20-foot screen at the center, and we sit and watch some of these things together. Like I said, sometimes getting out, getting to the movies with work in the center and the streams. Sometimes it's a little bit more, and then I do premieres too, so I have to gauge my days off. But I did not get a chance to see that movie, and I heard from one person that it's the best movie he saw this year. So it's going to be on the Oscar list. So it's definitely going to be on my list. So Bullet Train has all 3Ds and comedy. Listen, I can take the comedy if you have all 3Ds. I can do Evil Dead. I can do Evil Dead 2. I can do Army of Darkness. I can do, Shaun of the Dead. I can do, Dead Alive. I can do these movies that have a little twin of comedy in them, as long as you're delivering my death, dismemberment, and destruction. I'll meet you halfway. Unlike what's going to be the greatest movie of the year or next year, we don't have a release date for Pooh, Blood, and Honey. Listen, I'm going to be a disciple for that movie. I'm going to get those guys. And by hook or by crook, I'm going to get the creators of that movie and their distributor. I'm going to promote the hell out of the movie, and I'm going to get them on this screen because, like I said, these guys are doing the work of good right there. They are making the world a better place with that movie. So we're going to have, like I said, a whole Pooh, Blood, and Honey stream. And we're going to have the mask. We're going to have everything. So that's the movie I'm waiting for. Everything all at once. If it's a tie, Blood and Honey. All right. So it's on Amazon. So you know what? I might watch that tomorrow. After I'm done with Thrones, after I'm done with some of the stuff I got to do, I will watch that. I heard it's right up my alley. Like I said, one person I've talked to on a regular basis says it's the best movie of the year, and it's probably going to get nominated. I mean, like I said, we were talking. I was on Match's stream earlier tonight, and we were talking about certain movies that might get nominated. Top Gun was one of the ones that they brought up. Where somebody asked me, can Top Gun make it into the 10 movies? Possibly, but it all depends on what gets released. A lot of these films that are up for Oscar consideration, usually by strategy, get released in November, December, Christmas Day, so that they qualify for the Oscars for that year. But they're in that zeitgeist. They're in that area because Oscars get voted on in January, and the winners get released. So they want that movie fresh in your head that they're considering. One of the only movies that I've ever seen, and there's probably more, but the one that stands out in my brain most is Silence of the Lambs. Silence of the Lambs was released in January of 1991. It is one of the only movies I know of that was released that early in the year, a full 12 months before the cycle ended, that ended up winning a slew of awards, including Best Actor, Anthony Hopkins, Best Actress, Jodie Foster, Best Director, Jonathan Zemeckis, and it won Best Movie. I'm sorry, not Robert Zemeckis. Jonathan Demme, the late great Jonathan Demme. So yeah, there's a way for that to happen. So let's see. I will be checking that out, and I'll do a review of it. All right. Yes, I am a fan of Aubrey Plaza. I did not watch Parks and Recreation, but I've seen her in a lot of other stuff. I mainly see her when she's being interviewed or when she's doing something online, and she's being hilarious. She has a deadpan humor about her. And she keeps that straight face that, she was reading tweets the other day, and she was reading them in her usual deadpan manner, and it was hilarious. And I saw her on Legion, too, for the 28 minutes that show lasted. So, all right, guys. Okay. Let me know, Jeffrey, if I pronounced your name right. I don't like butchering names. I really like trying to give the effort to pronounce people's names right. So, She-Hulk twerking, AEW All Out. I'm looking forward to AEW All Out simply because I'm wondering who's going to be the wild card in the Casino Royale ladder match. I'm wondering if it's MJF that's going to come back and screw up the Moxley and CM Punk match, and where that's going to lead from there. I am most excited about the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega going up against the Dark Order, and Adam Page, for the six-man title. I was not excited about a six-man tag team championship when they first announced it. I thought AEW just has too many titles, and they become less important sometimes when you have too many. But they backed it up with some great matches. I think it was a Young Bucks and Kenny Omega versus Death Triangle, which is Penta, his brother, and Bastard Pac, and they put on one of the best matches of the year. Any match that has the Young Bucks in it, it usually ends up being up there in the best match of the year. The only and Will Ospreay. The very next week it was Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. I don't know if you guys have a chance to watch New Japan Wrestling or some of the other stuff that's out there. Google Will Ospreay or YouTube search Will Ospreay. I truly think he's the best wrestler in the world right now. He is a British-born wrestler, but he's trained Lucha Libre style. And, man, this guy can fly. And he's a five-star, walking five-star match. So, all right. So, back pain. Yeah, she was hot in bed. She's hot in everything. She's just hot because of the way she is. Not just because of the way she looks. It's that deadpan look that, like, she's going along with the joke, but she's standoffish. And, well, I like Aubrey Plaza. I know. Why can't I speak lately? Jesus. Let's see the Thirst Street video. Yeah. Like I said, she does these things in a straight deadpan manner. I love it. Let's see favorite movie this year. So I still need to watch Top Gun. It's on digital now, so I know even though that it's on digital, there are still places you can watch it if you get it in a movie theater. If you do get a chance to watch it, please watch that movie in IMAX. I'm not a big fan of IMAX because it's just my taking it in. Seeing Blade Runner 2049 in IMAX, that was it for me. Other movies, I'm not feeling it. Top Gun is one of those movies that you must see in IMAX because of the angles that the film is shot at, the depth of this film is shot at, and when they're doing the aerials, you take in everything in a different way when you get the whole aspect ratio that they meant for you to see it, especially when they're doing the cockpit scenes, especially when they're doing the maneuvering of the F-18s, and especially when they're going in on that final run. Just you need to see that in IMAX. You also need to see it in the best sound that you can possibly see it in, because hearing those engines roar, hearing the jets roar, hearing how the theater was shaking when they were on the aircraft carrier. And I had been on an aircraft carrier before, and I remember that feeling. I'm just growing up around airplanes as a kid on an Air Force base. And I understand that shaking, and I love that feel. And then my uncle was a Master Chief on the USS Enterprise, ironically. So I got a chance to get on an aircraft carrier and feel that rumble there. So it's when you see Top Gun, please make sure that you're seeing it in the best visual and overall sound quality that you can possibly see it in. Okay, so yeah, I watched Top Gun Maverick in 4K UHD at home with my 60. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you do 65 inches, that's 5'5" That's about 5 inches shorter than I am at length. So that's a pretty damn TV. 4K, and I'm pretty sure that had sound capabilities that probably rivaled just about anything out there. Like I said, plus I got to see it with a bunch of people because we promoted the movie. And like I said, same people ooh and ah. Like I said, for a jet movie, in 2022, that's hard to get people on board for. But we were able to get them on board for that, so I was happy. Like I said, I was happy for Tom Cruise that his movie, he finally had a movie that made $1 billion. The guy's been in a lot of movies, been passed over for Oscars several times. I know a lot of people think he's weird, but listen, I only go to see these entertainers for what they can provide for me on the screen. So I'm happy that a guy like that puts it all out there. He makes sure that if you're paying your money, that you're getting your money's worth when you go see his movies. He does not skimp. He does his own stunts for the most part, to his detriment sometimes because he injures himself. He almost broke his ankle during one of the Mission Impossible things, but this guy is not cheating you when he's inviting you to see his experience. You're seeing everything he has to offer. Even at 60, he just turned 60, and he's in better shape than I am, better shape than most people I know. Tom Cruise is a treasure. Let's see. She's always hot. Don't miss Emily Criminals. Emily Criminals on Netflix, correct? Man, I got so much stuff to watch. My goodness, this this advent of streaming has created a double-edged sword for me. There's created a wealth of content on a bunch of stuff, but it didn't increase the time of day for me to watch it. I'm like, every week there's 3 or 4 things that I need to watch, and I got my queues are all filled up, and the little things saying, you still want to watch? I'm like, yeah, I got to get around to it. And then you get on there to find those programs, and you realize there's an old program on Netflix or Amazon or one of these movies that, that you want to see. Like I was watching Manhunter as I purchased Manhunter, which is one of the great serial killer movies of all time. I purchased that one on Amazon, and just so I could watch a certain scene. If you've ever seen 1986 Michael Mann's Manhunter, there's a scene called Graham Figures It Out where the music builds, and I just love watching that scene over and over again. And I had scratched the hell up out of my DVD player, so I don't do that anymore. So let's see. Let's go back into the chat. I am not sure. I wasn't 100% sure when this movie was coming out, even under the previous regime. I'm really unsure if it's ever. If I know it will come out because I think Green Lantern, just below the Trinity when it comes to Zazov's priorities as far as DC, and DC is a top priority overall for him. I think Green Lantern is just beneath that as far as important goes, if not equal to it. If he is going to kickstart and reinvigorate what's going on with DC films, the Green Lantern is not only a very important part of it, it is the easiest way to start with characters that are not necessarily Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman while still staying in that same relevant level universe. So till we know what's going to go on with the DC universe, my preference is that they just continue. You've invested a lot of money over the past years into the product you have now. Rebooting and resetting, I think, is a stupid idea. Every time I turn on TNT or TBS, I see one of these movies playing. I see Aquaman playing on different formats, different platforms. They're still selling physical media, doing very well with physical media with Zack Snyder's Justice League. 2 or 3 editions have come out. You're still doing well with BBS. People are still watching these things on HBO Max. And what better way to augment and keep that content relevant is by just to continue it. Don't reset it, continue it. And when new people come into the fold, you have a library of information, a library of content to direct them to. You release a brand new movie, you know what? That's gonna direct them right back to all the content that leads up to it. So that would lead to eventually a Green Lantern movie, and it all depends on how the new DC head wants to introduce Green Lantern. Obviously, Zack Snyder had a way of introducing Wayne T. Carr as Green Lantern, and then that got scrapped. So now this new guy who comes in and takes over will have an opportunity to bring in his own Green Lantern, since that's one of the characters that has not been introduced in canon. And maybe we get a Green Lantern Corps, maybe we get John Stewart, maybe who knows. But until those questions are answered, I can't really give you a definitive answer, Bat City. But thanks for the question, though. What great sci-fi director would you want to direct Green Lantern? Yeah, Denis Villeneuve. The same director that directed Dune, and the same director that directed, in my opinion, one of the greatest, if not greatest, science fiction movies ever made, which is Blade Runner 2049. To me, I know there are other people out there, and I know I'm skipping over some names, but for me, it is a one-name list right now, and it's Denis Villeneuve. I probably butchered his name because I've only heard it from other people, but you know who I'm talking about. He's working on Dune Part 2 right now. Dune 1 was an epic. I'm glad that it got greenlit for a sequel, and I hope he gets the third part that he wants. But Blade Runner 2049, to me, told me that this guy can direct anything. Also, other movies that he's done is Arrival, Prisoners. He's done a lot of different movies. So yeah, if I had my opportunity for best science fiction director to tackle that right now it would be Denis Villeneuve. So like I said, I can't think of anybody else right now. Or my problem is I can't think beyond that name, because once I come up with that name, he delivers to me everything I would need for a Green Lantern movie. All right. Yeah, this is a background stuff. I want to add stuff tonight. I'm not going to. It's just casual stream. The green face that's been plaguing me at the center is the camera. We switched out the camera, and unfortunately, that was it. My brand new, sort of expensive camera that I bought strictly to stream from the store has something wrong with its light filter that it cannot filter out and balance the green. I got it from Amazon, so I'm working on getting it replaced. It was nothing I could do. I tried everything with the settings, but I had bought the same exact camera for our other show where I aim towards the crowd, and I was able to plug that one in. And I was at the store the other day, and I was my normal brown instead of green. I was not looking like a goblin or the Hulk. So yeah, but the green screen is as we built up, and I tell people every week, eventually you'll see a background behind me, because as we bring up topics, I want to be able to bring up things in there. Now you could do that without the green screen. StreamYard allows for that, and other programs allow for that. It's just a lot better with a solid blue background or a solid green background. So when we're talking about wrestling or we're talking about news and I want to bring up a match or I want to bring up something like that, just like the weatherman does, I want to bring up motion things for you guys to see so I can illustrate instead of just overlapping the screen. So that's why you see the green screen here. If you've noticed, I in both areas, both the center and here, I bought mics for both locations. Thank you to Rhea, my sole sponsor besides myself. She got me these earphones, but I also have a different set of earphones at the store. Eventually, so I don't have to drag anything to and fro because this equipment gets damaged that way. And it's a lot easier to be able to just be able to walk into a place. And if I do need to get on the air, I can. A lot of what we're going to be doing with the capabilities at the store is literally going to be things about content that we sell at the store that is related to TV shows, going into the brief histories. We'll do more Sci-Fi Center Presents, but most of the stuff that we do on our channel, that there's a link already in there, and I'll repost it again, is going to be stuff that's based on the genre that I'm in: science fiction, horror, fantasy, and some wrestling. So but then when we do our live streams, our Q&As and things like that, that'll be here at the house, or we'll do that one Friday stream that'll be at the store, depending on how late we stay. It is pronounced Denis Villeneuve. You know, yeah, I tortured his name. It's French Canadian, and I know I love the guy. All right, I know he could announce that he's doing the Berenstain Bears. All right, Denis Villeneuve could come out tomorrow and said, you know what, I've decided I'm taking on the Berenstain Bears. And as little use as I have for that, I'm there. All right, he's proven to me that he can tell a story. I'm there for the Berenstain Bears if he comes out and says he's doing it. So right now, my favorite acting director. So let me bring in what will be tonight. Usually Thade is here, but Thade's old. He might have taken the wrong pill. You know. I'm going to add in RJ here.
Hey, what's up, William?
So welcome back to the land of whatever the hell you had or not.
Yeah, I guess the land of the living. It's been a rough couple of 10 days, but I'm fine now. I am ready to talk wrestling with you because I have a lot to say, actually.
Yeah. You asked me a question in the other chat about AEW, thinking it was in trouble.
Well, I want, just to clarify with the pay-per-view. I quite enjoyed the pay-per-view. I thought it was quite good.
You're talking about today. You're talking about today's
Clash of the Castle. Yes, I quite enjoyed that actually.
Okay. It wasn't bad.
I'm kind of surprised you didn't. I mean, dude, Gunther versus Sheamus, that was incredible. That was an amazing match.
The matches themselves, the quality of the matches were good, including the Seth Rollins and
all the matches. The only match I didn't quite like was Liv Morgan versus Shayna Baszler, but I'm just not a big fan of Liv Morgan.
She did not sell that match. I thought Baszler sold the match way more than she did, but Liv Morgan, I mean, is just Shayna Baszler is just a better wrestler and a better seller. I don't like Liv Morgan's ability to sell a match at this point in her career, and she's got the strap on her now, so that's kind of by the time you reach that, it's tough.
I her to be champion, but I just don't think it's been a great run, to be honest.
Yeah, it'll take another run. I think
the biggest thing I disagree with you on, honestly, is just the main event. Because I did not hate this main event the way you did, I guess.
I didn't hate all of them. The match was great.
And it's a great match. I mean, listen, they need to go to Wales more often. Like, do more UK pay-per-views.
I can't believe it's been 32 years since I watched that pay-per-view. They're talking about SummerSlam, SummerSlam, I think SummerSlam 1992 is when I watched that. That was when Davey Boy Smith beat Bret Hart for the Intercontinental Championship. I was watching Demolition. I think it was Demolition, and I forgot who they were facing for the titles, but I remember that clearly like it was yesterday. No, the match itself was great. Move for move, even Austin Theory coming down and doing his thing. And
and Tyson Fury knocked him out.
I thought that's hilarious because I'm wondering at what point are we going to give this guy his shot? He keeps getting disrupted and stopped. And
it's like the running gag. Yeah, like when is he actually going to be able to cash it in?
So at some point he's going to cash it in. So I think they've handled that well. The problem with the Bloodline storyline is it's not Roman Reigns' fault and the Usos' fault that the product had been mishandled and mismanaged to the point where there's nothing else.
But let me ask you, though, realistically, who is on the level that can beat Roman realistically to where not only it makes sense, but it would be worthwhile?
Brock Lesnar?
No. I'm sick of Brock being champion, man.
Okay, but who's on the level or who am I tired of?
Well, who makes sense right now besides Brock Lesnar when we don't want to do Brock again? Because it's been done like to death.
See, that's the problem. They've created their own problem. You're right, but that doesn't make it better. That doesn't make today better. That doesn't get them off the hook. You put on a pretty decent match, and then you don't have the Usos down there. You don't have Paul Heyman down there, and then you bring in yet another.
But listen, it makes sense though. Solo is in NXT right now. He's been doing a great job over there. I think it made sense to bring him in and get him involved in the storyline because they need some fresh blood right now with the bloodline to make sure it stays at least somewhat fresh while we're at least going to be with Roman as champion for a few more months.
No. I think we're going to be with Roman for another damn. When is April?
Let's see, October, November, December, July, or January, February, March. Yeah, 7 months.
Let's see. Hold on. Somebody. I hear you playing video games, you damn game nerd. Somebody told me if I could move. I moved the. I can actually take the green screen down. We're done with that. It's just my raggedy. Yeah, there we go. It's just I'm in my my office, and my office is a 50-foot trailer, and that I have all my stuff, and I have all my my tools, my power tools and stuff in. So I hate the back window, but it is what it is. So it's another beat up chair. But
I'm just saying, like, you realize where they're at though with this though, where like you understand like they built Roman into like this unbeatable monster, right? They put him at that level. Now you need like the person who beats him needs to be somebody worthy of that, to where it be like one of the greatest moments ever. And who else makes sense, man? It's Cody Rhodes. They're saving it for Cody.
But the problem is that they're wearing out this character. It's the Goldberg effect. By the time you get to that moment's not going to be special because the method that you use to get it has been tired and exhausting. There's a such thing as exhausting when it comes to these wrestling angles. And I think it hurts Roman Reigns as much as anything. I think, and Ric Flair proved this back years ago, long title reigns are bad. Long title reigns are bad in American wrestling. Foreign wrestling, you can get away with it because Okada had almost a 3-year reign. But in American wrestling, long title reigns are bad. It's simply because it does not balance out the product. Ric Flair was king about this. Ric Flair was a 5-time champion in like a 7-year period. He would drop the belt to Ronnie Garvin. He would drop the belt to Dusty Rhodes. He would drop the belt to Sting. He would drop the belt to Ricky Steamboat. And each time he did that not only brought someone else into the fold and gave you a different view of what a champion was, it augmented him because he would keep it just long enough, but not forever. You never got tired of Ric Flair as world champion in the heyday of his career. Here, I'm tired of Roman Reigns as champion. I'm tired of Roman Reigns.
But are you tired because like of just him as champion, or are you just tired because like of what reason though? Or like really think about it, because shouldn't like if his reign has been as long as it has, shouldn't it make sense for it to end when it makes the most amount of sense to the maximum impact?
No, because by default you're basically not extending the reign for believable purposes. You're extending the reign out of a necessity for bad decision making with your talent to the point where you spent years watering down the talent that this was even your main event. You're right. How many times do we have Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. That was too many times.
It was too many, but at least now it's over and we moved on, which is
it's
good.
over. But here's the thing: you're the WWE. For up until AEW, you had a 19-year monopoly. You had all the talent, you had all the stables, you had all the developmental talent, and this is what you're giving me. This is what you have. That's a problem. And I think, and I understand
but remember,
that's the
this is what Triple H has inherited. He has to follow it through and get all this stuff out the way.
And this is why, that's fine. And I'm not. This is why I'm not going to destroy WWE, because that pay-per-view today was incremental. It was better than what they've been putting out.
I mean, dude, like you're already seeing immediate change. They brought back Imperium. They're really highlighting, like they talked about on the commentary. They talked about Stardom and all these wrestlers' history in Japan. Stuff that Vince would never do before.
Yeah, that I did notice, and I think that was a detriment to him, because that is something I think AEW is getting done right. Because as with the internet, we're able to get in YouTube, we're able to get these matches. Let me go into chat real quick, because once we got going on, I don't want to ignore anybody, any criminals, Secret Lantern. Yeah, it may be a bit of a good choice. It's hard to even think about that. Let's see. Somebody brought up. Okay, so we'll get to some of those. But hey, Black Ops, how you doing? He gives me shit for playing games.
It was one time.
I could hear you clicking, and I'm like, I know when you were talking the other day when you were at Max Stream, you were playing a game. I'm like, I can't do that. That's why I don't play video. I would crash whatever ship I'm playing. Now today's pay-per-view wasn't awful.
Dude, Gunther versus Sheamus, man, that was like a 5-star match right there in itself. That was great.
But I don't care about either of those individuals. See, that's the problem, and it's not their fault. I'm not saying they have shitty talent. The problem is they put these performers into situations where they're busting their ass. I just don't care about the outcome. And then
But they're building up the IC title again, though, man. Like all these they're actually treating the mid card belts now with some respect.
So I understand that, and it's going to be a process that's probably going to take
It's going to take time, but they're treating it better than they used to.
Because what needs to end up happening, and I need to see this with AEW, I need to see this with New Japan. If you have a secondary belt, that belt needs to lead to the top belt. I don't believe in mid-card forever belts. I believe that if you thought enough to put the United States title, the Intercontinental title, the national title on that wrestler, that's a test market to see if this guy can draw as a champion. That's what they used to do back in the day. The Ultimate Warrior, they wanted to test whether this guy could carry a card all by himself at the top of the card. They gave him the Intercontinental Championship fight, and then the next thing you know, he's facing Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania. What did they do with Randy Orton? Not Randy Orton. Randy Savage. Rest in peace. Oh, Randy Savage made his bones on one of the greatest Intercontinental matches of all time with Ricky Steamboat. What happened to him the very next year? World champion. That's the way they used to do it. Lex Luger, same way. Sting, same way. When you got that United States title or that number 2 belt, you were the number 1 contender for the next title. So what I would like to see, and I hope Triple H is going to do this, and every wrestling federation does this, when you put that IC belt, that US belt, wherever promotion you are on that wrestler, you're basically telling me that guy should be in a top end pay-per-view match very, very soon. All right. I don't believe in mid-card status. I believe in going up. And when you're in permanent mid-card status, that means you need to rotate players out and you need to put them in better situations. But just to give a guy an Intercontinental title and then that's the highest he goes, I always thought that was a damn shame when they did that with Roddy Piper. Because back in the 80s, there were certain guys that were just permanently mid-card guys. And I don't like that. I don't like permanently mid-card guys. Even though you could make a lot of money that way, I still like to see if you're gonna call him U.S. champion, like Matt Riddle. Matt Riddle's been a U.S. champion. I would like to see more done with him. I thought today was I thought that match was great. I don't like where that feud is going. I think that Matt Riddle needed the win and would have done more for his career.
Seth also hasn't won a match since like January though.
But he's already reached the status here, though, that Riddle hasn't. You see what I mean? Seth Rollins is main event of the WrestleMania.
Yeah, but it keeps the feud going for a little bit longer to where eventually they'll probably have a rematch at Extreme Rules. They'll probably do like some kind of like table match or something, and they'll do something crazy.
Yeah, somebody asked a question about wrestling. Do I miss the Monday Night Wars? Where's that one at? And I want to answer that. Hold on, because I got a thought about what happened here.
We're kind of already in another form of those wars, sort of, if you think about it.
Yeah, you are. One of the things about the Monday Night Wars is one. At one point in time, you had Monday Night Raw and you had Nitro, and even on its worst day, Nitro was drawing a 2.1, 2.3. That wasn't enough for. Lo and behold, AOL Time Warner execs, one of the worst ownerships in Warner Brothers' history, by the way. When they purchased that company from Ted Turner.
Wait, AOL, the
AOL, company? Yeah, you've got mail. Those guys. The AOL is the reason why WCW ended up being purchased by WWE. They put a piece of shit offer on the table when there were better offers on the table for WCW, and because Jamie Kellner, who was running WB and that division at the time, he thought he could do better by putting something on TV. And in my opinion, I thought he had a backdoor deal in place to try to get WWE programming on a WB network that he was running, and it didn't come together. He basically screwed WCW, and he basically sold it to Vince McMahon for like $1.5 million. There were Macho Man, Jason Hervey. There were other people that had much more money on the table that would have been a better home. But once he pulled the TV deal off the table, that's what killed any deal that anybody would have ever bought WCW for, because you had no TV channel to run it on. So essentially, you were just selling the library. Unfortunately, like everything that WWE did from that point on, they fucked it up. All right. What ended up happening is all your main stars with WCW, Bill Goldberg, Sting, and a couple others, were not signed with WCW. Their contracts were so big that they were signed directly through AOL Time Warner. So they didn't come over at first with the deal. That's why it took Sting so long. Sting went other places. Goldberg eventually ended up happening. But what ended up happening there is, instead of having a wrestling federation that was still viable, that could have been up and running, if somebody would have been allowed to buy it, you ended up with a monopoly. So the 2.1 million people that were watching Nitro and the 4.1 million people to 6 million people a night that were watching Raw, in the next 5 to 6 years, between 2001 and 2007, the wrestling market just basically dwindled down. I know there are a lot of other factors to that, but to me, the sensationalism of that war was what brought people to it. But also, once WWF, which was at the time, was the only product and you couldn't really blame anything on anybody else, people saw WWF as a singular property, and it wasn't that good. I'm 40. I'll be 48 next Wednesday. I've been watching the WWF product since 1982. I've seen it in all its forms. And I know that, in my opinion, yes, you've had high spots. Yes, you've had great matches and great instances. But the product where WWE got to the point where Triple H took it over, that product has been eroding since the late 1990s, to be honest with you. Now,
90s, the Attitude Era?
Yeah. Now, people love the Attitude Era, but for every Rock and Stone Cold or Rock and Mankind matches, there was a bunch of garbage on the card. And what ended up happening is it brought a lot of aspects and people to wrestling that were not there for wrestling. And if you look at the numbers, they went down because a lot of those guys got attracted to other things that were more sensational than actual pro wrestling. If you look at the average numbers now for people who are watching Raw on a night, those same numbers that are on Raw now on USA would have gotten someone fired in 2001, 2002. The same ratings that Raw draws now would get people in hot water now. Anybody running a wrestling company that had the numbers that they're using now, the ratings that they had now, would have gotten someone fired back then. So, but because the industry's been watered down and you had a monopoly, and a lot of people just left wrestling. A lot of people just left watching wrestling, and those numbers went down. You still had the packed houses. Everybody's still going to go to WrestleMania and hype it up. But if you look at it, the TV numbers went down, and if you look at the quality of even that, it caught up to them. By the time 2008, 2009, 2010 came around, WrestleMania, which used to be a loaded card, in my opinion, from top to bottom, your opening match for WrestleMania one year was Demolition World Tag Team Champions going up against Rick Martel and Tito Santana for the tag team title. That's how stacked the WWF card was for WrestleMania. There are what I call bathroom matches now, where I get up and go to the bathroom. Because not only should the matches not be,
I mean, that happens like with all wrestling shows. Though, to be fair,
that was not the case though. That is acceptable now. That is acceptable now after things have been watered down for that long. That was not the case before. That now that you only pay what, the $4.99, whatever the hell Peacock I pay for Peacock is, and when you had the WWE Network for $9, now that is acceptable to have crappy matches on the card. When I was dropping 40, 50, and $60 for WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, no, your matches on that card were good. Your feuds, all the stuff that you have built up, all the middle stuff, guys, there were certain people that got left off the card on certain pay-per-views because their feuds and where they were not at the level of a pay-per-view. Today, what I watched was a really good episode of Saturday Morning Wrestling. And it was kind of cool because, it harkened back to the day when wrestling used to be, Superstars of Wrestling used to be on Saturday at 10 o'clock. But they haven't put on a pay-per-view, in my opinion, that was worthy of their previous standards.
I don't know. So, to me, like, there was aspects of this that I felt like were like pay-per-view worthy. I felt like the presentation, especially like how like everything was presented, I thought was extraordinarily well done. I thought like the way the crowd, especially the crowd, I think elevated a lot of the show as well. I don't know. I mean, for me, I thought like, to me, I get to see more of the positives with this, where I see this as like the first step of like true change. Like I can see Triple H like taking over, and I can see like the DNA, if that makes sense. Like I'm starting to see like, okay, like now we're seeing like the real change here. I mean, you're bringing back Imperium. You're doing everything that you need to be doing, right?
Well, you're also seeing some differences in the NXT with them consolidating what I thought was a huge mistake, with even having NXT Britain, UK. That was dumb. That, to me, I needed that talent here in America, or in the NXT brand in America. So they're consolidating that and bringing some people over from that. I really liked when he was in charge for a while, when he had a little bit more power before Vince took it away, where he was highlighting NXT as if it was a main brand, to the point where instead of having an NXT takeover on a Saturday night and the main event, the main thing on Sunday, he flipped it. He had a WWE main event, was pay-per-view was on a Saturday, and there was an NXT event on a Sunday. He was elevating the NXT brand up to a higher level, and it wasn't just a developmental territory, because I disagreed with having Samoa Joe in NXT. I thought that was a joke. Samoa Joe at that time was 38 years old. He's wrestled and held titles all the way around, and at the time they were defending or depicting it as a developmental brand, what does Samoa Joe need to develop? He's at the same level as AJ Styles as the first day you bought AJ Styles.
I think it was to put more eyes on NXT. That's why you bring in that kind of name, honestly.
But Samoa Joe at that point wasn't that type of name to where he was an attractive name, but he was an experienced name. I mean, his big thing came from Impact, and he was in Ring of Honor. But remember, not a lot of people that were watching WWE were watching some of the stuff that was going on in Ring of Honor. Most of them weren't watching New Japan. No, with AEW, it's different, because at the very least, on its worst day, AEW turns you on to other things. AAA. I know these federations, but I got people asking me about, because every time people come into the store, and I need to have a sign saying, if you come in my store and you start talking wrestling, clear your schedule, because we're going to be here for a while. Especially when they see the belts, the championship belts I have laid out, the conversation can go for hours. But they're asking me about AAA, because they've seen Kenny Omega, where having as a AAA champion. They're asking me about Impact. Is that you or me?
That's me. There's someone driving by. Sorry.
Okay. But they're asking me about Lucha Libre. They're asking me about things that I, as a wrestling fan for decades, that a standard wrestling fan wasn't asking me about. So with AEW, it's at least broadening the conversation and getting people to watch some of these matches. Watching Okada, who's one of the great wrestlers of his generation. Getting to see Will Ospreay, who I think is the best wrestler currently wrestling today.
Right.
So
I just want to clarify, like, I'm not like crap on AEW, right? I like AEW. I've been a fan since like I went to Double or Nothing. I went to their very first pay-per-view.
Oh, you were out here?
Yeah, I was out there in 2019. Like,
you didn't stop by and see the Geek Daddy? What's going on, man? The hell? Oh, we didn't know each other then. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. But no, I mean, I was there. I was at MGM Grand Garden Arena. I was there when they made history, and they had freaking John Moxley came out. I was there. Okay, I've been there since the beginning. And like what they do for the most part, but I think like at this point there are like some severe issues at this point that like I'm kind of getting a little nervous. And I don't see.
Like,
Well, again, we're gonna be here a while because I got a list. The biggest thing I feel like is I think that there's been some serious issues with the treatment of the women's division. That's like one of the biggest ones. Like all the backstage politics, especially, are getting very annoying. And I think Tony Khan has started to stretch himself a little too thin. I think he needs a writing team at this point. I really do.
well, I agree with the women's division, but every promotion at some point in time, including in mostly WWE, up until the last 3 or 4 years when they started using the women properly, has had a problem developing.
But also like I feel like there's a lack of a locker room leader at this point because like the treatment of Thunder Rosa I think is absolutely ridiculous. The way she's being treated, not only by Tony Khan himself, but Britt Baker, I'm just like, what the hell are we doing here?
Well, that kind of stuff happens everywhere, though. There's not. I mean, you're just.
No, I understand
it.
that, but like this is becoming you have the issue that just happened with Eddie Kingston and Sammy Guevara. That just happened. You're having all this backstage heat. You have what's going on with MJF. What's going on with CM Punk now and Jon Moxley? Which that whole situation is.
That's
like,
a work.
What the hell?
The CM Punk and Moxley thing is a work, and so is the MJF work. I actually think I'm gonna call it right now. He's gonna come and he's gonna fuck up that match tomorrow. And I think he's going to align himself with
listen, if that doesn't happen, I have a lot of questions because that needs to be the story.
MJ, this is okay. So when it comes to some of these other things, those issues, they're not going away because that's professional wrestling. They're happening everywhere. You're just hearing about them to a certain degree from one another.
It's the frequency, I think, is the issue. This is like happening.
But no.
Over the last
it's
month.
The frequency that you're hearing it in. These things are happening, and as we speak now, these things are happening in WWE. These things are happening in MLW. These things are happening in
right, but there's a steady hand in leadership right now that I think has I think honestly, like ever since Forbidden Door, this is my opinion. I feel like AEW has been a bit rudderless lately. I know they've had injuries, know they've been missing some talent, but they haven't hit their creative groove since Forbidden Door. And the build for All Out, I don't think was as good. Like Rampage at this point, I feel like is almost a worthless TV show. Like Rampage does nothing for me at this point.
Rampage, I think needs. I hate to say this because I usually don't say this when it comes to wrestling shows that are already a certain amount of time. I think Rampage is the hour. I like Rampage, especially when you're leading up to a certain pay-per-view. There are some issues. Nothing you're saying is not true. The one thing that you have to keep in mind, though, is that this is a wrestling federation that began not too long ago, and is hitting all the issues that pretty much have had the opportunity.
It's bad timing because they've been on fire for so long. Then you have WWE coming in with Triple H in charge, and they're starting to be more aggressive now, and they're really doing some interesting things at this point. But then we have what's going on with AEW. Like, you have all the backstage politics now, and you have all these issues going on behind the scenes. I mean, for God's sakes, what the hell are they doing with Wardlow? Like, why is Wardlow freaking competing with FTR in a 6-man tag match? Listen, I'm excited for the heavy metal machine guns. I'm really excited for that. I think that should be a tremendous match.
Motor City
machine guns. But like, I'm just sitting here like, Wardlow is on a high, and you're not doing anything with him defending that TNT championship.
All right, so here's the problem. Yeah, FTR. Now, I'll agree a little bit on both of those. I don't think they should have been teamed up with each other because you take them two single guys out of that match. Yeah, you take the two single guys out of that match, and they can give you a hell of a match on their own. Motor City Machine Guns, even at their advanced, the time they've been around, it's one of the best tag team matches that you put them against anybody. FTR is arguably the best tag team in the world in any federation right now.
Oh, I agree.
So that's a match I need to say. I don't like the booking right now. So you're not wrong, but these are things that I think are going to get smoothed out.
We could have gotten at All Out. We were supposed to get FTR versus the Young Bucks in a tag team unification match, but they went for the trios situation instead with the typical Kenny Omega's back. You know, he was brought back for this, so we can fight Hangman in the Dark Order. That's the best match you can do with those guys. When we could have FTR versus the Young Bucks, but now we're doing Swerve in Our Glory, and I like Swerve in Our Glory, but you're going to tell me that them versus the Acclaimed right now is the best match you could do for the AEW Tag Team Championships?
No, but I think you needed to align your personnel and your history to where you can have the match that you want. I think Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, just because they're winning those, and I do believe they're going to win these titles tomorrow.
Oh, probably.
I still think they are going to go on to beat Swerve and Swerve and can't think tonight.
Keith Lee.
Yeah, Keith Lee, huge guy. If you ever met him in person, my God. I think that it's going to be the Young Bucks beating them in heel fashion, and then I think you're going to get the match that we're talking about with
but you're putting the Acclaimed in such a bad spot because they're so hot right now, and they have to lose, right? You would assume.
But I don't think losing hurts them. It all depends on how the match is booked and how it's done. I mean, when the Young Bucks lost the tag team titles, it was one of the best matches in the last 8 or 9 years.
It was. It was. I don't think they should have lost though. In all honesty, they probably should have kept it for a little longer. I understand why, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine. There are some booking issues though. Those ones that you brought up are there, but those are things I see long term as far as them.
Well, the women's division especially, like, my God, like, the treatment of Thunder Rosa is just absolutely disgusting. And then you have Tony Khan saying, well, we didn't want to give Thunder Rosa a proper promo because it's not going to sell the same way. I'm like, come on, Tony. Come on.
You know what? Listen, he has whether you agree with him or not, that is his job to make that decision.
I understand that, but you're trying so hard to push this women's division thing, and you're not treating it the way it should probably be treated at this point.
Well, there's another thing he's doing wrong that I think hurts the women's division. I'll get to that too. Tony Khan is not making any decision that other wrestling heads have not made. The problem I have with Tony Khan is I hear from Tony Khan. I see Tony Khan, and I don't need to see or hear from him. I don't need him being an on-stage presence. I don't need to hear the quiet part. Yeah, I don't need to hear the quiet part out loud. If you have to make a decision, whether it's popular or not, you can make that in the back room, but I don't need to know that. You need to get yourself a figurehead, somebody that plays that role for you, and you also need to get some other people. Another thing that I have a problem with the women's division, it's actually a bigger problem than that, is the whole Jade Cargill situation. Once again,
yeah, that TBS. Listen, I like Jade Cargill; she's a tremendous athlete. But that mid card belt, I love Athena. I'm glad we have Athena there, but it's she's not going to win.
You've had a person that's 30, 32, 30, whatever, and wearing
they're going to want her to go for much longer.
Having a title for that long has not had a women's title match yet. Mm-hmm. To me, that's having too many titles doesn't hurt you. Not booking the titles right hurts you.
See, that's the issue. I think they've added way too many belts. You're having this all Atlantic. I love the idea of some of these belts, but why is it that Ring of Honor stuff is on AEW television? Because you should be promoting Ring of Honor more. Promote that show. I should.
I think that's announcements coming soon. I think they're getting their own. I think they're getting their own show.
Get their own television show.
Yeah, I think it's
on streaming or something.
Well, I think they're getting it. They have to negotiate because you have to negotiate. You have to get the time. You have to get the app. I really do think that they're going. Ring of Honor is going to be on their own thing and their own stable.
Which I agree. That's how it needs to be right now.
But it takes time. Remember, Ring of Honor was that sell was a shocker. That sell came out of nowhere,
and it came very quickly too.
Yeah, it came very quickly, and it took Ring of Honor 2 years to get the TV deal that they finally got. It took AEW. AEW was the last thing that AEW was needing to become a true federation and to launch like they did was the deal with TNT and TBS. Otherwise, they were just going to basically wrestle a lot of TV. So the TV deal is important. I think it's coming. I think it's easier for them now because they have a major federation that is drawing right now. But Jade Cargill being undefeated, being unbeatable, but I have a women's world champion. I mean, if there's an interim world championship match, why isn't the person that's holding the number one contender belt in it? And that's not just AEW. WWE is king for doing that shit, and it drives me crazy. Okay, yeah, Punk is going. Listen, I could be 100%.
I think Punk is going heel too. Yeah,
I think Punk is going devastating heel. I think Punk is.
What do you mean by heel. Do you think remember when Hangman was teasing the promos you're coming in here to invade our company? Is that the kind of direction they're going in, or something?
Yeah, and I think he's going to lose the title tomorrow. I don't think he's going to win the match tomorrow.
Really? You think Moxie's going to win?
I think Moxie's going to win, but I think MJF is going to ambush him, and I think they're both going to try to cripple John Moxley, and I think CM Punk is going to be the mentor to MJF, and I think MJF is going to be your next champion after Moxley. And I think they're going to ride him for a while.
That's what I think they should do. Would they do it though? Would they really go where Punk goes heel and becomes MJF's mentor?
Yeah, because Punk loves the heel role. Punk has nothing to prove with that title.
But we just started getting the baby. Like, we were robbed of that babyface Punk role, though. So one sucky thing about it. Because he got hurt, and we didn't really get that run with the,
I don't think there's a place. I don't think this is a time or place for a babyface Rumble, because Punk, people are gonna love CM Punk no matter what, whether he's a heel or not. But for narrative purposes, I think he's better as a mentor. He's better as a mouthpiece. I think he's better as a guy that's a catalyst. And I think right now with MJF, I think it's his time. I think he's the right guy for the right moment. And the fact that he has not been on the scene for so long means he hasn't been oversaturated. He's great on the mic. His wrestling could get a little bit better, but that's that's a lot of people that reach the top. I think he had a title match one time, and at a pay-per-view, and they just left it like that. So I think MJF and the promos that they did leading up to him going away, and they kept him away long enough to make it relevant if he shows up tomorrow. I think in some capacity MJF is showing up tomorrow, and I think it's going to be after Moxley beats CM Punk, because I don't think CM Punk is going to take the title. And I think MJF is going to come out and crush him.
Well, or it could be a situation where CM Punk wins and MJF comes out and you think he's going to attack Punk, but then they actually team up. That could happen too.
Hey, what's going on, Anthony? Hulk Hogan, listen, been watching wrestling for literally 40 years. The only difference in the way that the way things are going on now is we were scrutinizing it a lot more. I did not have the ability back in the mid-'90s, because the internet really didn't start taking hold in wrestling until the late '90s and 2000s. We did not have the capacity and the ability to realize a lot of the things that were going on in backstage. We now have that, and we have that to the point we can exhaust the information. Once we absorb some sort of information, we're looking for the next. So a lot of these things that are happening have always been happening. We just have the ability now to see them immediately. We don't have. Remember, I had to call a 1-900 number to find out backstage stuff from Jim Ross, all right, and Gordon Sully. So that's how old I am. But now we have forwrestling.com. We have wrestlinginc.com. We have credible sources. We have people now that are career reporters on this stuff that can give it to us.
That's all they do.
Yeah, that's it. So some of this stuff sounds bad in the context of us hearing about it, but it's not. It's everyday stuff. And guess what? Wrestlers love the fact that there's an AEW, and on their worst day, they love the fact that there's somewhere else to go. Because, what WWE did, being a monopoly for so many years, it drove down pay. It drove down the way the wrestlers were treated. It eliminated a lot of opportunities for people. They could treat you like shit, and you had nowhere to go. You know what? You had to take a lesser role, or you had to take this lesser contract because there was nowhere to go. You either wrestled there, or you went over to Japan. And at that time, New Japan wasn't on everybody's radar. The big thing that helped New Japan was New Japan World, and it made it so everybody with a computer or a phone could watch New Japan Wrestling once you knew it was out there. And that's how AJ Styles went from TNA, and then he went to New Japan for 2 years and had two of the greatest years of his career. And that propelled him into his contract with WWE. Same thing with Finn Balor. All right? Finn Balor was the same way. Prince Devitt, Bullet Club, Gallows and Anderson. All these guys went over to New Japan and got foundations there, and then came over. 10, 15, 20 years ago when New Japan was out, you wouldn't have been able to do that because not enough people knew about the product. Now with the internet, everybody knows about the product. And Jim Ross is great. Jim Ross watches all this stuff. All right, Jim Ross is watching wrestling of all ilks, and he can tell you anything about any New Japan wrestler. And I didn't think he could. I thought he's just reading from the script, but no. Back in the old days, Jim Ross wasn't afraid to bring up WWF while the Midnight Express was in the ring wrestling for an NWA title. That's how Jim Ross was, and I'm glad to see that JR back. But yeah, a lot of the stuff that the Hogan did, Nash did back in the NWO days when they had a lot of leverage, is the same kind of stuff that you're seeing now. It's just different now because we get it quicker. Doing that stuff that went with the NWO and the way they use their booking power, a lot of in the click and all that, a lot of stuff you had to be a hardcore wrestling fan to understand what was going on in that era. Now you just need this mouse and this computer screen, and you got everything you need. You probably have too much. I think we have too much information. All right. Okay, so William, TNA could have been better if they went on the road, but Hogan lived in Florida and TNA filmed in Orlando. So that was one reason. The other reason was TNA was hemorrhaging money. One of the different things between TNA and Impact now, because Anthem owns them now, Anthem is a lot more smarter with their books and who they offer money to. Impact has money, and people think because Impact is a small wrestling federation that they don't have any money. Anthem Sports has money. When Chris Jericho was before he signed with AEW, they made him a very competitive offer. He even went on interviews saying that they made a competitive offer. The problem with the back in the day, and I remember the Main Event Mafia, was a lot of guys were making a lot of money that didn't have a lot to offer a wrestling federation. So, and going on the road is expensive. Going on the road is one of the most expensive things you could do as a wrestling promotion, especially when you're talking about house shows, which are necessary to build the community together. But you're taking that same money and you're taking all that thing to set up a ring, rent out an arena, or get the revenue split from arena. And then on house shows, you're not even getting the TV revenue or the ad revenue. So that's one of the reasons why TNA didn't go on the road, because they were hemorrhaging money. Hogan was one of the reasons, because Hogan was making a lot of money. You got guys like Hulk Hogan, Sting, Samoa Joe was there. These guys were making top dollar, and they weren't draws at that point in their lives. And that's why AJ Styles ended up leaving, because AJ Styles was at the prime of his career at that point. And, he was getting lost in the shuffle, and then the offer that they made him was an insult. So, yeah, they would have been better when they went on the road, but that there was a lot of other things that would have happened. TNA was good competition back in the day. Like I said, between 2004, when they were NWA TNA, and in 2010. 2010 is where things got bloated. 2010, because the 2004 to 2010 product was based on some of the greatest wrestling I ever saw. Once you started bringing in big names, and they went on Spike TV, which used to be TNN, and then they went up against Monday, they just started to lose their identity. And then it just all became all about outspending the WWE, who at that time, they'd gone public. They had gone on a pose for a long time. As far as a major wrestling federation goes. So, all right. So let's see if we got all the wrestling. But I think AEW will be fine. Everything that they're going through right now, they have to go through. You know what I mean? To get to the point to where they're a polished product and they can get all these rough edges out, I think they have to go. I have to get to where they are. You know what I mean? This is a necessary evil of growing a wrestling federation as fast as they are growing. And they're infant.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It's just like these growing pains are just like very obvious and kind of bad, especially because they've been on such a hot streak that's more evident. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that hot streak was an illusion because, like I said, you're still a 3-year-old wrestling federation learning how to walk. They've been very fortunate to have some really big successes and some, like I said, they basically gutted Ring of Honor and New Japan of their talent to be able to get back to get to where they are. Almost everything that they got that kickstart off came from New Japan and Ring of Honor. Kenny Omega, the Young Bucks, Cody, all those guys were from Ring of Honor, and that's how good Ring of Honor was at the time. But now that jump-started them, but now the dust is starting to settle, and they're going to have to go through the nuts, bolts, and screws that every wrestling federation has got to go. They're going to have some high points and low points. And the difference between the formation of a lot of these other federations, including TNA, is the internet wasn't as targeted as it is now. The internet in 2004, even though it's fairly recent, is a much different animal. And we didn't even have Twitter then, I don't believe, like not in the manner that we do now. Now Twitter drives the news sphere sometimes. So it's different because they're emerging in a time where we're watching them emerge. But all the stuff that they're going through now, if you want them to be the diamond that I think they're gonna be, they got to go through this. So I think they'll be fine. Can't wait till we get our first. Yeah. Here's another booking problem I had. I don't need to see the Dark Order and Adam Page in this match. I needed to see the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega versus Will Ospreay and Aussie Open. I loved it. The match that they put on the other night was pay-per-view quality. The match that they put on the other night with Penta, the Death Triangle, was pay-per-view quality. And what problem with the booking of the trios matches, all the great matches were booked on one side of the bracket, which was the Dynamite bracket, because that's the main TV show. I thought that was a mistake. I thought that in order to heighten up Rampage, they should have had equal, good matches on both of them so that I would watch. Instead of basically the last match that was any good being on Dynamite, and then basically I know who's going to win the tournament now. There's no way in hell, as great as that match could end up being, that Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks are not going to walk out with that title. And that's the right decision because the Young Bucks elevate any title you give them, and so does Kenny Omega. So that's the right decision. I just wish they would have booked it differently, and I think they would have. I think they would have should have balanced it out. I don't know, man. I think that train might have left the building, but who knows? I thought the NXT train had left the building, and they had CM Punk run that, so I was wrong there. Oh, but hey, you know what? I mean, right now, I don't know if there's any indication that they're going to leave Warner Brothers, to be honest with you. Because other than the problem with Warner Brothers is, I don't know, even the new management is going to make the mistake that the idiots that ran Time Warner AOL did back in 2001. Because before the NBA on TNT, which is a huge draw for them now, they didn't have that in place. When there was nothing else. You went to the Craft, not the Craft, but what is that show with the witches? Shannon Doherty and all that. You went to repeats of that show in place of WCW. Your ratings went below a 1. I don't know if they're going to give up that kind of draw because you can't, even though they have NHL and NBA, those seasons don't run all year. With wrestling, it's 50 whatever weeks a year, twice a week. It's 100 shows. That's a lot of ad revenue. And AEW makes up a lot of ad revenue. I know when I wanted to run ads here through Cox Cable, and I wanted to run them through AEW shows, even the Rampage show was expensive because it's a draw. So I don't know. Amazon, dude, they have unlimited money, but the Khan family has $8 billion. It doesn't cost that much to run AEW, so they got money. The guy owns the Jacksonville Jaguar and is pretty successful. So I don't know how much of a difference Amazon would make. I don't know if they would be on network TV with Amazon too. So being on network TV is huge for a wrestling federation. It makes or breaks wrestling federation. For all your pay-per-view revenue that you get around the year, your ad revenue dwarfs that. All those commercials, all those video game commercials, all those other movies, not just on the national stage, but local knucklehead business owners like me who buy that advertising space from the local guys, and then they in turn buy it from them, so that chain goes upward. So I don't know if Amazon would give them the business structure that they would need. It would definitely give them a lot of money, but they have money now, so who knows? All right, let's see. All right, TNA was around and was good. I agree up until 2010, 2011. But once you started having Nash and Hogan do the booking, and a lot of the matches became about them and the main event mafia, and even Sting was unwatchable at that point, it just sort of it got watered down. I thought, and this is just my opinion, everybody's got their own, I thought the 2010 to 2014 version of TNA was bloated. I thought there were some guys that should have been moved on from the company and certain other ones kept instead of making an AJ Styles a lowball offer. Why don't you let some of those guys that are, were in their 40s, late 40s and 50s go and keep at the time, a 35-year-old AJ Styles there instead of letting him go on and basically use New Japan as a bridge to be in WWE where, in my opinion, AJ Styles has been grossly underserved. The WWE version of AJ Styles hurts my eyes in comparison to what I know of AJ Styles' career. I have not enjoyed him in the. I know he's had some big matches, the Undertaker match, all that, but you go to AJ Styles Tanahashi or AJ Styles Okada. Those are the matches that really help build his career. Everything else is just filler, and I don't think AJ Styles ever reached that level, and that includes holding titles for a while. It just never had the same effect that he had in other wrestling promotions. Let's see. I get it. I grew up with Jim Crockett's promotion. I grew up with NWA wrestling in the territories before Ted Turner bought Jim Crockett's production or Jim Crockett's promotion and turned it into WCW. And they did that so seamlessly that a lot of people didn't realize that WCW and NWA had been sold until they did the brand split where the NWA, you had NWA titles and WCW titles, and then NWA split off from WCW, and from that point on, it was WCW, and NWA went around as a territorial unification type of place, and then to the point where now Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins owns NWA. But yeah, Jim Crockett Productions was a big part of my childhood. I mean, it was probably as big a part of my childhood as watching WWF on Saturday morning, watching Saturday afternoon. To me, when I was a kid, Saturday, I called just Saturday was National Wrestling Day, because you had WWF superstars in the early morning at 10 o'clock in the morning. You had 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you would have NWA superstars or whatever their show was. I forgot what their show was, but it was their main show. Both companies had their main shows. This was before Monday Night Raw. This is before Monday Night Wrestling with Gorilla Monsoon. They had those shows. But the Monday night shows back in that day, in the mid 80s and early 90s, there was no Raw, there was no Nitro. Those shows were like the house show matches that they would take a camera to. They would recap whatever happened on the Saturday shows. But your main day for wrestling was Saturday, either in those morning and afternoon shows or on like things like Saturday night's main events or things like Clash of the Champion. And you can go back to a time, there was a time when wrestling pay-per-views weren't necessarily all on Sunday. Survivor Series started on was on Thanksgiving night, not just Thanksgiving of November. Survivor Series was on Thanksgiving night, so whatever Thursday that was, obviously that's when that pay-per-view. As soon as you ate your turkey, and that's how they promoted it, you were watching Survivor Series. The Royal Rumble, the very first Royal Rumble in 1990 was on free. Hacksaw Jim Duggan won it. Was on free TV. It was on the USA Network. The very next year it was a pay-per-view. It wasn't until I think the fourth WrestleMania, because WrestleMania has always been on a Sunday, but then all the rest of them fell in line and were all on Sundays. And NWA did not necessarily do their pay-per-views on Sundays as well. Chi-Town Rumble 89, the famous match where Ricky Steamboat defeated Ric Flair for the title, I think it was a Tuesday, February 20th of 89. So Jim Crockett and the way they did business back then was a big part of the childhood. It's why I look at wrestling today and I'm happy with what we have, but I'm like, there's a certain feeling that we just haven't gotten. That was before the internet too. So the matches would be taped like 3 or 4 weeks in advance, but because I didn't have any other way to find out, as far as I was concerned, it was live, man. So yeah, Jim Crockett, man, it was great. Go ahead, RJ.
No. I mean, I just got back. I just stopped for a second, but no, I mean, there's definitely a golden age of wrestling for sure. I mean, that time back then, of course. I mean, that was, iconic.
Yeah, and to watch it as it was happening, like I said, I love the internet. I love all these technological advantages. I'm not gonna be the get off my lawn guy, but there's a certain mistake with that has having lived life without it, and watch these things happen, watch these pay-per-views as they happen, not hearing about the backstage contract negotiations of who was coming and going, when you were genuinely surprised to see something happen in wrestling because some dirt sheet didn't put it out weeks ahead and you were just watching a pay-per-view to see if something you read online happened. So yeah, this era is great, but that era was fun. I've watched so much wrestling now that I can pretty much choreograph the matches, but I still enjoy watching it. I'm still going to be at a live event next weekend with New Japan. So let's see. Do I remember Combat Zone Wrestling? Yeah. Combat Zone and ECW. I remember the pre-bastardized ECW that wasn't part of WWE. I remember when Paul Heyman first started that he took, I think it was East Coast Championship Wrestling out of New Jersey, and it was the old it was the NWA territory, as a matter of fact. I think they bought that Paul Heyman purchased that NWA territory from them, and he created ECW out of it. And you had matches like Rob Van Dam, Sabu, Chris Bandito, the Sandman, back when the Sandman was at his prime, Tommy Dreamer. I mean, these guys put their bodies through torture. The only bad thing about ECW now is I think some of these guys took a lot of shots that they're paying for later in their life. So, okay, so Megan Thee Stallion. Listen, Can you hear me, RJ?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm still playing around with the listen, Megan Thee Stallion is not for public consumption if you got kids. Obviously, if they were watching She-Hulk and your kids are a certain age and they Google Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B and WAP, they might find some not so family friendly things. But you know what? I thought it was a fun moment. I thought the outrage was complete bullshit. It's bringing
Yeah,
She-Hulk
the
down.
outrage made no sense to me at all. Honestly,
come on. You were not. Most of the assholes that were that were having these problems were not watching the show. They saw it in a clip when they woke up in the morning. I watched it live as a Derek because I watch those shows that way. I thought it was fun. It was a little post-credit scene, and it's in the vein of She-Hulk, the way she's being portrayed. If Megan Thee Stallion would have been around, and when John Byrne was writing She-Hulk, she would have been in the comic, and they would have been twerking. If twerking would have been a thing back in 1989, when John Byrne took over the title, it made it the best-selling version of She-Hulk. And the She-Hulk that every She-Hulk has been templated on since then, he would have had them twerking on the front page or on the cover. Their asses would have been, it would have been a 3D particular hologram cover, and She-Hulk's and Megan Thee Stallion's asses would have been shaking on it if they'd have been doing it, because that was the fun of the character. Listen, guys, we delve into these things and we analyze and we tear them apart. But I think, and that's why when I host these streams, I try to relax and pull back. There are fictional characters that were meant for us to have fun with. And I think I'm trying to do this more and more as I'm trying to get away from the business end of all this stuff, because you know what? I've had enough of the business end of it. The business end of it almost ruins things for me sometimes. Some days I don't.
I get it. I understand it completely.
Yeah, sometimes I don't care who's running WBD. Right now, I know it's in better hands than it's been in. I know we're going to go through some painful situations, but I'm not. I've let that go in my head, because you know why? Because I held onto it tightly from 2013 till now, and I did it under our awful regime. So I think these new guys are an improvement. I think there's going to be some decisions that a lot of us will not understand because we don't have the proper context. But I think everything is going to be as fine as it can be. I think that I have more faith in the decision making that is going on with my pop culture now, whether it be Star Trek, whether it be wrestling, whether it be anything going on, except for paper medium and comics. You guys need to fix that shit. I'm confident where the guys that are in charge are going to take some things right now. The only thing I really want DC Comics to fix right now is DC Comics, because right now your company is top heavy with a couple of brand names on there, and people are not buying the other stuff outside of Black Label. Thank God for Black Label. Black Label is great. Anywhere on this earth right now, if you hear me and you walk into a comic book store, just go to the Black Label section. You'll be better for it. You will be a better human being. Black Label is the best stuff that I think comics in general are putting out right now. All right, so yeah, I love Megan Thee Stallion. I thought that was a fun. Are we doing the Supernatural thing tonight? What was the Supernatural thing, Michelle? You got to clue me in on that one. I think it might have been another stream on the network. Let me know if I'm forgetting something.
Yeah, because I have no clue. I don't watch Supernatural, so.
Hey, Chappie. Thanks for joining me again. How are you doing? Charmed. Charmed was that they were showing after they took WCW up there. And you know what? I watched Charmed. But it doesn't take the place of wrestling for me. All right, yeah. Chappie. By the way, question to you guys. What do you think is going to happen with Blue Beetle? Do you think there'll be some reshoots? No, I don't think Blue Beetle is going to get the axe. I think Blue Beetle is going to be carved to fit into whatever they decide that they're going to do. Just like everything else that's going on. I think that.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to get rid of. I don't think they would get rid of it.
And under these guys, you know what my thoughts have been about Blue Beetle. It's been a joke. But
it doesn't mean. Well, listen, I think Blue Beetle's going to be a sleeper hit. I think it's going to be a surprise hit.
It has the potential to be even more than that now, because if you are building an infrastructure for your main characters to thrive in, as a byproduct of that, your B characters will thrive in. And I think that is what was missing before when the previous regime was going to handle Blue Beetle. I'm like, this is going to be a shit show. And it would have been. But if you are prioritizing the main alphas, it helps your B characters thrive. It gives them time. It gives them, not all the weight in the world is going to be on a Shazam or on a Blue Beetle or on a whatever. And that's the problem, is you're putting too much pressure on characters that nobody is really familiar with in the general universe, instead of using your alphas to bring those guys in. Give Blue Beetle some oxygen to breathe and grow. You know, Ant-Man, not a lot of Marvel people outside of or inside the general audience really would have given Ant-Man two shits if it was just Ant-Man on its own. But because Ant-Man exists in the same universe with all these other things that have earned them credibility, they can do that. And that's what I want for. I don't need everything to constantly Batman, Superman, Batman. That's bad. What I do need to do is to take those alphas to shine lights on everyone else. Use the alphas to polarize the other characters so that I can get a movie like Blue Beetle, or I can get a movie like whatever you want to do that's not a top tier character, and that movie has its chance because now you've it's a part of an engine of a very cool car instead of just a screw lying around on the ground. So I'm changing my stance on Blue Beetle. I think under the new regime it has a shot, not only just to be a sleeper hit, depending on the context of what's being where it goes, where it falls in place or whatever they're doing, it could be even better than that. The future's wide open right now. I'm not going to guess. Right now, I'm in that I'm going to just let these things happen mode. I've guessed for 9 years, and I've hurt my head.
Yeah. Well, don't forget, too, by the way, in terms of movie news, next week is D23, where they break the hearts of all DC fans by announcing Henry Cavill's full-time MCU.
Oh, stop it.
Listen, right. I think it's a real possibility. I think he's going to join the MCU. I think he
can join the MCU. Dude, I'm telling you.
I know. I'm just messing.
You're messing with me. But there are a lot of people who have been spreading that around. And I'm like, money, if I get an opportunity to do something else that I can make good money at while I'm doing what I'm making my current money at, I'm going to do both. Now, there is no way. I think a lot of people see the brand names and they think exclusivity. No, sometimes lesser stars may have to do that kind of thing because they want to where they're at in life. Henry Cavill and Danny Garcia are not, no way in hell, are going to sign a contract that excuses them from doing anything else that they want to do. It is just not going to happen. She would be a fool because she's cutting into her percentage, and he will be a fool. And those two people aren't fools. The companies involved, Disney and Warner Brothers, both know that. They're not even going to make that request. They're not going to come. Disney's not going to come to Henry Cavill and say, you can do this, but you can't do this. And WB is definitely not going to come to Henry Cavill and say, you can do Superman. We're going to give you the money, but you can't do this. Screw that. 39 years old, you don't know how long you're going to look like that. You don't know what tomorrow is bringing you. You make that cheddar while it's in front of you. All right? Not everybody's going to be looking like The Rock at 50. All right? And even still, some of these guys now, it will get to a point where their scheduling will not work out for them. Well, they will not be able to do multiple projects because age does eventually catch up to you, and it is a hard job, especially if you're like doing your own stunts, unless you're Tom Cruise. But you will, when you're 50 years old, 53 years old, you will want to slow down. But by that time, and that's why not turning down roles, regardless of what brand they are, is what these guys are doing now. They're going to make that money now so that he has decision-making process at 55 that I got 40, 50, 60, 70, 100 million in the bank, plus back-end contracts because I did all these movies. I'm Dr. Doom in the MCU, and I'm Superman in the DCEU. You know what? That money piles up, and it makes it so that, these guys can start doing these questionable decision-making that they do when they start showing up in these independent movies for $1 million. They can do that now because they have that freedom. So, yeah, they can announce him as he could come out with Max's mask on as Dr. Doom, take it off and say, I'm Henry Cavill. And I would fully expect when it's time for him to be Superman again, for him to walk out in that big red S. So, hey, more power to them. If they do get him in a MCU, they're getting a great actor that I think has not been given the credit and the paychecks that I think he should be getting, is now starting to get that. People are starting to realize that Cavill is a top-tier MILF magnet. Listen, the guy impregnates people by building computers. Right? When you have a MILF magnet...
that's one way to put it.
Yeah. When you have a MILF magnet like the likes of Jason Momoa, Henry Cavill, and The Rock, and all these other guys, pay them. MILF money is good money. MILF money multiplies because MILFs take their kids to the superhero movies, whether they want to go or not. Those MILFs are dragging the two kids and the husband. So instead of the MILF going by herself, she's mom. So she's dragging everybody in. So she's dragging her 400-pound husband that doesn't look like he should anymore, so she can go see the guy that she really wants to marry. She loves her husband, but guess what? She's got 2 hours of Jason Momoa. She's got 2 hours of Henry Cavill. and the kids are in on a tangent. We're going to see a superhero. The MILFs are driving that $1 billion. Aquaman, China, and the MILFs. All right? So make the MILFs happy. Sign Cavill. All right? Keep these women happy. All right? Like we said before, they make up more than 50% of the population, and they determine where half of the finances in the household goes. Make those MILFs. Put that on the shirt. Put that on the shirt. Make the MILFs happy. If I'm Danny Garcia, listen, we've put our case to make this kind of money. Just write down those 4 MILF. There you go. And then just dollar signs. MILF money could drive it, man. So,
got any predictions what they could announce at D23?
No idea.
No idea at all.
No, because so much of the stuff that Marvel is doing is spread out.
Well, not just Marvel. I just mean in general, anything.
Nah. I disconnected from the Marvel product other than what I'm actually watching. Like right now, my mind is on She-Hulk because that's what I'm watching. When it was Moon Knight, it was Moon Knight. And if there's a movie, like when it was Thor, Love and Thunder, by the way, the best Thor movie, but that's not saying much. But when it was Thor, so my mind, I've disengaged because unlike a lot of people, most of the Marvel stuff, just over half of it is a waste of my time. And I don't hate watch things. I watch them and then I give my reviews and I judge. I don't hate watch things and I don't gauge in tightly to things that don't interest me. And right now I've limited that to the Marvel that is in front of me. And it allows me to
listen, that's fair.
Yeah, it allows me to enjoy the Marvel in front of me and give the Marvel that's in front of me for that moment more time and patience than I would if I'm thinking about Marvel as an entire universe right now. So I have not honestly been connected with some of the stuff that's going on and that's going to be going on next week. But I'm pretty sure it'll be a big day. It'll be a big day for them.
I mean, it's gonna be a big week. I mean, we have Disney Plus Day on September 8th. We're getting Thor: Love and Thunder is coming to Disney Plus. We're getting the Pinocchio movie on Disney Plus. What else?
Pinocchio. Listen, I don't want to hear about any more Disney adaptations. You know what? Because you know what I have. I got Blood and Honey. And now,
but Blood and Honey ain't something that's gonna come out all the time, you know.
But that's where we need to solve that problem, RJ. Because now that you show me,
do you really want more Blood and Honey all the
time? Yes,
I
want Pinocchio.
Guillermo del Toro's coming out with a dark take on Pinocchio on Netflix.
That's beautiful. I want Peter Pan. I want a gory version. I want a glorified version of Peter Pan. I want Snow White, and the Seven Dwarfs. Each one of them is a different type of serial killer. Seven different types of dude. Snow White and the Seven Sins. And she's all tatted up like you see her in those memes. Oh man, dude. I want Disney. I want everything that Disney has to go public domain so childhoods across the universe can get destroyed. I cannot wait to observe the tears of all the poor little kids that grew up with Pooh Bear. And now they're seeing Christopher Robbins and his friends getting hunted down because he abandoned Piglet, he abandoned Pooh Bear, and they went crazy and deranged because without him they were nothing. I cannot wait. This is going to be Academy Awards. We already have Academy Award winner for Best Movie, right here, Blood and Honey. Blood and Honey. So let's see what we got.
Well, there's also probably I'm trying to think what else Disney Plus Day like for it's also D23 that weekend, so it's going to be a very 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 busy weekend for Disney. But there's going to be like a video game stream on Friday, September 9th, where they're going to like showcase probably like some new stuff there. Saturday's the big day. Saturday's their live action studio showcase from Lucasfilm, Marvel, and
we're going to get a trailer for Indiana Jones. Is that what I heard you guys say?
I think we're going to get the title. They haven't announced what the title of the movie is. They'll probably say what the title of the movie is. They'll probably bring out the cast. Maybe a teaser. Maybe. That'll probably be like Lucasfilm's biggest thing they bring. Marvel is supposedly going all out. Like, apparently they got a lot to show. Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, Werewolf by Night Holiday Special.
That I'm looking forward to. I did hear about that. I'm looking forward to Werewolf by Night once it's in front of me. I am, because if it's anything like Moon Knight, which is the same family of books, I think I'm going to like it.
It's basically going to be like a adaptation of like the Graham, like it's basically inspired by the Universal monster movies. That was the idea that they pitched. So
I'm open to it.
Yeah, that's basically what they wanted it to be. Trying to think what else was there. There was also what else? Oh yeah, Fantastic Forecast. That's the big one. That's supposedly finally getting announced at D23. Finally,
That's gonna. I'm just gonna watch that to see how many people that have held on to their fan casting for so long. If it's not what they want, are they going to tear up the internet? I mean,
well, here's the thing. I don't think it matters at this point. Like I think people are just ready for the cast to be announced so we can finally just get it and let's go.
yeah.
You know?
So 10 years from now, when is this movie coming out? Man, every time.
Dude, it starts shooting pretty soon in a couple months. I mean, we're getting it in 2024. I mean, I know it seems like it's far away, but like it's pretty close when you think about it.
When they put on that board for all their stuff, there's full slate, and I'm like, wow, this shit goes all the way into 2026, 2027. I'm like, oh my god, I can't make it past September 4th. I can't think beyond next Sunday. And now I'm like I said, I just realized, okay, this is fun, but it's like I gotta shrink this map down to the things that are relevant, like right now. I love the fact that we're getting a Kang Dynasty because Kang, and I love the fact that they have the balls to tackle such a complex character. I understand that they're going to have to take liberties with it because it's just you have to in order to make this right for TV. But I can't wait for Kang Dynasty. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that once it comes out, we'll report on it and everything else. But as far as anticipation goes, it's just that there's so many things that are coming out that are spread over a certain amount of time that I kind of like hold my horses a little bit.
No, I get that. It's just that it is going to be like we're talking like some massive announcements. I mean, like they're coming out guns blazing, and we get no DC fandom this year. Yay!
You really listen. I'm in the middle with that. I understand why.
I get why too. We really have nothing to talk about, but still, it would have been nice if they would have came out and said, "Hey, well, let's say hello to the new regime at least. Let's be like, hey." Let's promote a couple of these movies. Like, at least let's like hype up Black Adam. Unless they're doing it all in New York Comic Con, I don't know.
I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's where Dan Lin is going to actually be announced. I think if Dan Lin had been in place
New York Comic Con, they don't typically do that kind of stuff there, though. That's not the place you make big announcements.
Don't typically do that, but this is their last shot before a lot of their stuff. What is the date for New York Comic Con?
It's in October. I think it's like 2 weeks before Black Adam.
Yeah, yes, you're right normally, but this isn't the normal circumstances. They fucked up the promotion for Black Adam. Both the previous regime more so than anybody else.
Well, we're going to be Black Adam has been horrendous in my opinion. I think the marketing's been bad.
That is to put it nicely, and I'm going to be part of that. And I've been talking to our intermediates. I'm like, dude, do we have a date for the screening? Because if they decide not to do a screening here in Vegas, which would be horrific, I'm going to rent out a theater and do it myself. I've already got my plan.
I would be shocked if they didn't do a screening. I
would be mortified if they do it. This movie needs the promotion. It's not just enough to have Dwayne Rock. No matter how big a star Dwayne Rock Johnson is, he's going to make up for the bulk of the money that's made for it. But the fact that you're doing it with a character that is not universally known and is not even a C character for the most part. Granted, great, you took a chance on it. They're valid characters. But marketing-wise, you got to do the work. If you're going to give me Justice Society, you're going to give me Black Adam, you're going to give me Shazam, you need to do the work to educate me. And that's what I was telling you guys last night when it's up, it's just like it's up to the dealers to connect the TV IPs to the paper if you want to sell the paper. It's up to the production companies to educate their fans and keep them going along that road if you want them to buy the product at the end of the rainbow. And they've done an absolutely horrific job at doing this. So, yeah, normally New York Comic Con would not be where you would put stuff because New York Comic Con is about comics.
The only reason I could see them not doing a screening, honestly, like or doing any of that kind of stuff, they would typically
there's shitty reviews. Yeah.
Well, either bad reviews or it's because they want to keep Henry Cavill a secret until like the day of release.
Which is, you know what? I understand that train of thought, but fuck it. If you sign Cavill and he's in that movie,
at this point, I would just say, yeah, screw it, just go for it.
You need to be getting his surname up and getting on YouTube as Joe Nobody and making sure that shit drops. All right, and you can lie about it to your investment bank. That wasn't us. But if you're fucking Warner Brothers, you need to make sure that shit leaks. All right, because that.
I mean that would change everything for your movie.
That changes not everything with that movie. But that changes everything going forward. You're giving people conversation to talk about. Right now, the void is being filled with bullshit when it comes to talking about Warner Brothers, Discovery, and DC because there's nothing there. You come out with that gives people something to and talk about, and then they can start drawing their own fantasies from then. But you know what? That's good stuff. But the reason I think it might be at New York Comic Con, because like I said, you don't have any other venue to push this movie anymore. I do disagree. I understand why they're not doing a fandom, but I disagree with them not doing it simply because you really need to push these movies, and you really needed to have Dan Lin in place or whoever in place. I thought that it took too long to get a studio head candidate. I thought we should have already. I thought that those conversations should have been happening the year that David Zaslav was sitting in the waiting room waiting to take over the company. Even if he could not officially do it, you have to know who you want. When you have that long to think about it, you have that long to analyze what went wrong with the previous regime. You should have hit the ground. You should have jumped off the plane with a plan in your suitcase, and they did. So I'm disappointed there because that sets them behind. Because if you do that, if day one 3 months ago you name a DC head, we have a DC fandom. And guess what? If we only have the two movies to talk about, we're talking to Dan Lin. He's doing a Q&A just like we are doing now with people on YouTube. We're talking to him. We're talking to The Rock. We're talking to, because decisions with Cavill could have already been made. We're talking to Zachary Levi. We're talking to all these guys. We're talking to Jim Lee. We're talking to people. But mainly it's I'm Dan Lin. I understand what you've been through before. We're not going to go into that. This is not the DC Comics from even 2 days ago. When my name went up on the door, this is what I have in store for you. And I want to hear from you guys what you want to see from this. And then I show the trailer. Then I do a long interview with The Rock. Then I do a long interview with all the Shazam family. And then we start talking about and then we be candid in certain situations, because somebody's bound to bring up the Ezra Miller situation. And you know what? You put the company line. Ezra's getting the help we needed. Where we evaluate the situation, but right now, let's be truthful. We're going forward with the Flash, and unless he gets struck by real lightning, nothing's going to stop that movie from happening. Be honest. People will appreciate honesty. And guess what? The other 97% of the population that's not watching fandom, that's going to make up the backbone of the finances of this movie, they're not going to care. But for the people that are in our zeitgeist, have conversations with us about Black Adam. Have conversations with Pierce Brosnan. Have every star that's in Black Adam should be at fandom in a couple weeks. But we're not going to have a fandom. We don't have, there are people that to this day don't know what the hell Justice Society is. Yes, they are obscure to the mainstream guys, but only obscure as you let them be. It is your job as a producer to make me know who they are. Obscurity is in the eye of the people presenting the product. Yes, I know you guys have shot yourself in both foot by not having Superman and Batman be the spotlight on all these things. But you made the decision to go ahead. You made the decision because they had screwed up so much of their main guys and screwed over so many people playing those roles that they had to continue on and work around things instead of being able to deal with those characters. That I don't have a time machine. But going forward, let's get excited about this stuff. So yeah, I think it's a mistake not to have a DC fandom. Even if it's just to introduce Dan Lin and give me a better trailer than the one that you had. I need another trailer in between now and the 21st, and that trailer should be at fandom. I need another trailer.
I don't know what's taking them so long to release a second trailer. It's been honestly ridiculous.
Yeah. So another wrestling question. RJ and William, do you agree that independent circuits have better matches than AEW and WWE sometimes? It depends on the promotion. Because I've been to some independent promotions where they put on better matches than you'll ever see on TV, and there's no cameras there. A lot of it is that can be true. I mean, I've been to a AAA show that's great, but then I've been to some that are bad. Less and less now. Less and less now because a lot of the people that are wrestling in AAA are getting shots at AEW. A lot of the people that are wrestling in New Japan and some of the smaller feds are getting a shot. And some of these guys that are like in Vegas, we have FSW, we have smaller wrestling federations here. They're independent, right? But when AEW comes in here, they get dark matches. So a lot of these guys are wrestling the same level everywhere now because they are looking for contracts. So that used to be the point where the up-and-coming guys would bust their ass and at the house shows and the smaller indie shows. And then when they got up there and they got the money, they didn't want to break themselves down because they were making that big money. Now the money's evened out for it. Unless you're a major star, you're pretty much making the same money. So I think that it's roughly the same, but there are situations to where, a Lucha Libre show just by the nature of what it is. It's going to be better than some of the stuff you're ever going to see in a major promotion. You know. All right, so original trailer for She-Hulk. See Zav's last name in there. Oh, okay, that was the Axis Zav. Now, right now, the Axis Zav is chopping a bunch of shit up. But like John Campion said and Robert Burnett said, Axis can be used to chop shit up, but they can also be used to build. And I think we'll get to that point. And I think it's important to remember that we didn't get to this overnight. Some of these guys that are 19 and 20 were only 10 years old when the guy whose name I always fuck up, Tishiara, was fucking up the company. All right. Some of these guys were still in junior high. Why me as an adult was dealing with the god awful decisions that those clowns were making. And we dealt with those bad decisions for years. I wish I had the angst and outrage that's being shown towards Zazov in some cases. I wish I had that support along with me back in 2013, 2014, 2016, 2017. We may not be going through the type of regime changes that we've got to go through. We may have had a different product if we could have all put this kind of pressure. But let's not put the pressure on the new guy, when he inherited some really dirty laundry. So, all right. I was like, oh, my God. We're talking about, this. Yeah, I saw somebody, and I saw this. I spoke about this earlier on Max's stream. I saw someone say having multiracial characters ruin the believability of the new Lord of the Rings series. I've heard that same bullshit about House of Dragon. Mm-hmm. All right, so number one, so what? Having a giant fire-breathing lizard that doesn't exist, does that offend you as well? But here's the thing. Just because these storylines were written in an era where we didn't have representation doesn't mean that you can't make adjustments to this. If Tolkien and George R.R. Martin, who has no problem with the race swapping and gender swapping of certain things, he was writing in a particular time in a very finite universe. He was basically writing in the continent of Europe and certain things. But if you look at even Game of Thrones, the Dothraki, the House of the Undying, the Marine, there are a lot of dark-skinned people that are geographically located where us darkies would be. So if you look at House of the Dragon, which is the Valerians and Corlys Valeria being black, and oh my goodness, what are you doing? The Valeria is beyond the narrow sea. We're going east. We're going in the areas that could be the Middle East. We know that they ended up in certain parts of the world where there's generally white folks, but we don't know where. So did I. Guess what? My origins come from a place that is not Los Angeles or not Las Vegas, Nevada. We migrated, so we're out there. Regardless of whether you were representing us at that time, it makes sense that geographically, places where they're south of the equator and the Middle East areas are going to have people that look a little bit like me, and it's okay to integrate them into the story. That's modern day common sense. But because people have their mind wrapped around the way things were originally perceived, that's why. And like I said, I can't ask Tolkien what he thinks. All right, but I can ask George R.R. Martin, and he said, "I don't care. This is great." So these people.
Yeah, it's like I'm going to value his opinion over anybody else's.
Yeah. And I'm like, good Lord, you guys just don't want us anywhere. So let's see. Yeah, okay. So, guys, you think Henry Cavill has really signed a deal with Marvel even though he still wants to play? Yeah, I don't think he has, but I think it's a very good possibility. And I think he'll sign both contracts. I don't think one precludes the other. I think, like I said, if you offer me, if I have a chance to make $25 million for one movie, or $25 million or another movie for $25 million, or option C is I get to make $50 million and make them both, guess what option is going to happen? Guess what option is going to happen? You know who wins? Who's undefeated? Math. Math always wins. Math is undefeated since the beginning of time before we knew what math was. And $50 million. If he gets offered a max deal or some type of deal, like I said, it's not like basketball or NFL, where once you sign a contract with an organization, you are exclusively theirs. That is not the same thing. Content creators for different studios can do whatever the hell they want. Mm-hmm. All right? And they are in the big names that know they can get a big paycheck from somewhere are not going to sign a deal that precludes them from doing anything else. A lesser name that wants to make that money because he's never made that kind of money before may. If a studio sees a potential in RJ as a pup of a guy at 23, and they think, RJ's going to be a star, we're going to lock him up. RJ's going to sign that $5 million exclusive deal because RJ's never seen $5 million in his life. But people like Cavill and The Rock that have and other James Gunn and people like that have options and know that they could go and make that money anywhere else. They're not going to sign something that says I can't be here or there. And as far as the time thing goes, like I said, legitimately there are people who make more money than I will ever see in my lifetime. Their jobs are nameless, faceless people whose job is to make this work. And they get a percentage of this, and they get paid by the studios. And like I said, look at Danny Garcia's career, how aggressive she's been as far as getting her clients paid. It's not now. They could announce it tomorrow. He could come out and fly down from the rafters with a Union Jack on his chest and say, I'm Captain Britain. And I'd be like, that's great. I'll keep an eye out for that Superman announcement that I know that's coming. And congratulations on making all the money. Right? People, yeah, it's a business, guys. I mean, are you going to turn down the opportunity to make all the money?
Listen, if I have the opportunity, absolutely, but it all depends on like what actually can fit within my schedule. If I can make it work, then absolutely.
For $50 million, you're going to trust me. It's not even going to be about you. Your agent and the people who handle you and the studios are going to compromise after you say yes. After Cavill says, yes, I want to be Captain Britain or whatever he is, whatever he ends up being, if he ends up doing it. And yes, Warner Brothers, I want to be Superman. And that's the amount. Okay, Danny, I'm getting up out of the room. I am turning this over to you. Cavill's not even going to be in the room for all that planning and negotiation. Once he tells her what the number is and they all agree on it, Cavill's going to go back to make his computer and being a MILF magnet and impregnating women by building towers. He's done with it. There are going to be people who you will never hear of. Johnny No Name, Bob No Middle Name are going to get together and they're going to build up big giant calendars and their logistics. And Danny Garcia is going to be sitting right across from them, and Warner Brothers is going to have a guy, and Disney's going to have a guy there, and they're going to work with each other, and they're going to be like, yeah, we can use this sound studio. Wow, you're filming your thing then. Wow, we can make travel easy on him if we do this, this, and this. Wow, there are certain scenes of this movie that are going to take place in this kind of environment. We're going to be filmed. They're going to make it happen, all right? For that kind of money and that kind of prestige and that kind of opportunity, you make it happen. It's not like me with no resources, and nobody gives a rat's ass if I take a $10 job or a $20 job and I have to work 2 jobs. Nobody cares. But these guys care because if they're making Cavill an offer for Superman, that means they have finally come around to saying he's prestige. If they're making Cavill an opportunity, giving opportunity to play at Marvel, they recognize his talent and ability there. So both of these people want this guy. You know, and neither one of them are going to be like, oh, you're Superman. I don't want you to be my guy. They ain't care. He fits with what they're doing, and they're not going to see beyond their project besides in his desire, ability. And the same thing with Warner Brothers. There are people who we will never hear of that are not going to end up on YouTube or the news that are just jobs. They're church mice. They just make it happen. They're pencil pushing geeks that literally when the credits roll in a really good movie and there's like thousands of credit, they're that last guy at the bottom, right before that after credit scenes that ain't coming that you're waiting for. That's that guy. All right. So don't worry about that. If he wants to do both projects and the money's right, he's going to do both projects. It's in his best interest financially, career-wise, because the more money you make now, the less roles that you have to take. You get more freedom. You know, that's why guys like De Niro can be in low-budget movies. That's why guys, you see them popping up, and Bill Murray is being in movies where he can make money, way more money somewhere else, because they now have that financial freedom. And that's what working this hard at 39 makes it so that at 70, you ain't winging it. You're not going to have to put on the cape and the S at 70 if you don't want to. So I think he'll be, if he wants to play Superman again, he will play Superman again. If he wants to take a Marvel job, he'll take a Marvel job. One does not mean the end of another. All right, it's business. Money talks. Our fanboy logic, and I'm guilty of it too sometimes. Fanboy logic crumbles in the face of dollars. All right, dollars in opportunity and prestige is kryptonite to our fanboy logic. All right, we turn green and get sick and die in the face of hard cash, opportunity, prestige. So if I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but if it doesn't happen, it's not going to be because of scheduling or money or conflict of interest. It's not going to happen. It's just, we're in 2022 now. So, all right. So speaking of independent movies, Dead for $1 look good. With Defoe, yeah. Oh, listen, look that you can't go wrong. Can you go wrong with those two?
No, I mean it's a great cast.
I mean, Christoph Waltz is a 2-time Academy Award winner. Thank you to Quentin Tarantino for both films. Okay, if Henry Cavill is hello, Chappie. If Henry Cavill joins the MCU, that means Warner Brothers Discovery is going to have to be no. It does not.
To be fair, this is also far back, so maybe you convinced me.
Oh, okay. You know what? I got it. Dude, I got something I ordered from Amazon. I got two things that I ordered, not from Amazon, but another one. I ordered that thing, that screen that Campia has, where he can watch the chat.
What is that? Like it's just like an extra monitor or what?
It's just an extra monitor, but it's as big. It's like a page, and it just rotates. You can rotate it, but it just sits there. And I can Stream Deck it. With the Stream Deck, I can put whatever I want on that screen from anywhere I want. So I can put any picture I want. I can put all the stuff. So when you see my full studio, when I'm finally done with it, I will have this little device he had. And I saw it on his show. So if I push button 1, it shows up on the TV behind me. If I push button 2, it goes to the green screen, and I can show you something there. If I push button 3, I can show you any camera angle. But I can take the chat, and I can put the chat on a screen that's off to the side. And like the member chats and all that, I don't miss them. I just plug into different things. So it's kind of cool. I'm upgrading, man. I'm upgrading. Neil, dude, I forget that when I try to tell your whole name, I'm Chappie. I think I've addressed that, and that's my opinion on it. Could be 100% wrong, but like I said, I just money talks, man. All right, hey, Black Star Afro. When Henry was let go by WB because they wanted to force him to do a Shazam cameo, it turns out The Rock refused to be a Shazam. Hey, you know what? Wherever that part of the story is, I guarantee you there's a part and piece that we'll never be in the room for. You know, in those kind of negotiations. I can believe that this happened, but I can also believe that there's another part of the story that we're just not privy to. You know what I mean? So let's see. We'll make a good clip. Damn, see, this is another thing. It allows me to. It scrolls up. It scrolls up, and this is. I'm not good at this yet. Yeah, make notes happy. Yes.
Yeah, I doubt that The Rock would purposely want to betray Henry Cavill and let him take the fall for backlash for not appearing in Shazam. That just doesn't make much sense to me.
Yeah, I think that I think what's happening, and that negotiations are happening all the way up until the end of Black Adam's last cuts are being done. That's how negotiations happen sometimes. And I think there's a contingency plan, and I also think that there's a plan in place. I think personally, despite it or anything I heard or haven't heard, I think Henry Cavill will be fully in Black Adam. I think he was meant to be there, but the COVID thing happened. Plus, I don't think the negotiations was happening. I think the plan was for him to be at Comic-Con, but things happened. Life happens, and negotiations happen. But I'm okay with that. If Cavill is in Black Adam, fully in Black Adam, I'm not going to give a rat's ass about what my disappointment for Comic-Con will not be in my front of mind at that time. And I think everybody that's around me, including the MILFs, will be happy. They're not gonna think about that too. All right, so let's see. Wow, see, yeah, like I said, I'll be happy when I get these new cool devices because they're gonna dummy proof. Okay, so let's see. They have a darker version of Snow White. Sigourney Weaver is the queen. Yeah, but that version is not. Listen, you know my standard. I'm getting my sister. I'm gonna have my sister make a drop for me that explains all 3Ds, and it has me with the Reaper for death, and it has me with getting my arms ripped off for dismemberment, and it has me standing with the nuclear bomb, the nuclear cloud behind me for destruction, for all 3Ds. That version of doesn't have all 3Ds I'm talking about. If you've seen the Pooh trailer, I teared up. The Blood Honey trailer, the pending greatest movie of all time,
it did not make you cry.
Has all 3Ds in the trailer. We haven't even gotten to the movie yet.
They probably showed you all the best stuff in the trailer. Let's be real.
Possibly. They have death, dismemberment, and destruction in the trailer. Now, if it's like some of the best trailers I've seen where you only got a glimpse and it just gets better when the movie gets out there because what they showed you in the trailer, they should not have shown you. There's an axe going up somebody's head in that trailer in the pool. I had to turn it off yesterday when I was on my live stream. I'm like, oh, well, maybe I shouldn't have this on here because he's legit taking that out heads, and it's glorious. So, yeah, that version of Snow White I don't think is the same vein as Blood and Honey. So, like I said, I want everything Disney has to fall in the public domain so that I can torch. I want these guys to take everything. Little Mermaid, everything. I want everything to fall in the next 80 years. I want to be alive for when some of these soft ones turn into my type of movies. All right. Dumbo, I want Dumbo have Dumbo flying down and just trampling people. The elephant, come on. My life, like I said, Blood and Honey is the movie that I've been moving towards all my life, and they've been moving towards me, and now we're meeting in the middle. This is great. Let's see. Snow White and the Seven Sins. That's a great kind. Yeah. Yeah, man. Snow White and the Seven Sins. And like I said, and I'm going to have my rating, and they're dope. When you do your GoFundMe or your, whatever the campaign is, the Indiegogo campaign, I'll donate, but I want to talk to you first. I'm like, what kind of movie are we making? I have the standard called 3Ds.
By the way, Tony Khan just announced that Rampage next week at Arthur Ashe Stadium will be a 2-hour show.
Yeah, good. I love those shows that they do there. I don't know if you've ever been to the U.S. Open in Flushing. Dude, it's a tennis stadium that can fit a hell of a lot of people in there, and that's a good way to go. I think he's going to have a lot of ground to cover tomorrow, so I'm really excited.
I hope my only issue is, man, 15 matches. Like, it's just, I don't know. Like, I feel like sometimes less is more. You don't need to book your card.
I agree.
Like your entire roster's on the card.
I agree, and I'm on the vein where don't have some people. There's some people that are just not going to be on this pay-per-view. You know what?
And that's okay. Sometimes that happens.
Yeah, and you're still getting paid. You might not get a pay-per-view percentage, but guess what? That next guy that I put you in place of, he's going to have to sacrifice that percentage as well. 15 is bathroom break time. That means there's going to be a lot of matches that are just not good, or rushed, or you just don't leave your you don't need to. Yes, Blood and Honey. Clint works for me at the Sci-Fi Center, so he knows my enthusiasm about certain things. Let's see. Yep. Indiana Jones and the Replacement. Yeah, please release this fucking movie before he dies. I'm not saying, listen, I'm not, knock on wood, please, Harrison Ford, don't die on me, all right? You answered my prayers when I prayed to the heavens that you stayed alive to give me a Blade Runners 2 sequel. You and Ridley Scott, who's in his 80s, I prayed for you and Hatton Fincher to stay alive, to not crash your plane, to not do anything stupid to get yourself killed. And you answered my prayers. You did it. You made Blade Runner 2049. All right. This is 5 years ago now. You're creeping up on 80, man. Slow down.
To be fair, Indy 5 was supposed to release this year, but it got delayed to next year. So
okay,
I got like a full year delay.
79-year-old here. Ford as opposed to 80. Stay healthy, Harrison. All right. Why do you guys think there are people so obsessed with the whole wokeness and are expecting TV movie shows? Okay, so this is going to come from my perspective of somebody who is a person of color and has had to see the world differently and had to see the perception of us differently. RJ is obviously here Hispanic, but like I said, our experiences are going to be a little bit different, even though we're minorities. So I'll let you tell yours. There are people that think that the inclusion of us in any walk of life means the exclusion of them. And I heard it during the 2016 election after we started getting prominence in places politically, the election of a black president, us being in a lot more prominent roles and bigger roles in certain things. There are people who grow up in a certain generation who see that as just, wow, that's great. You know, the people in my class, my neighbors and all that, they're going along with me because we're progressing. There are people of a certain age, though, that have lived the majority of their life being the most represented, on the food chain on all levels. And when they see someone else that does not look like them that's being represented, they erroneously think that means the end of them. The beginning of us does not mean the end of you. It means that after all this time, we are walking alongside you. They don't see it that way. So when it comes to women in prominence and everything else, they have a problem with that. Now, when they use the word woke, whenever somebody represents not a political belief, but a lifestyle or something like that hasn't been represented, it's always woke when it's not you. You know, it's always woke to represent a person of color and put them in a prominent situation and represent their situation when it's not you. It's always woke to represent a transgender person or a gay person or any lesbian or person when it's not you. But you never the selfishness
Yeah.
of not thinking of it from that point of view of that person who's never had that representation. Can it go overboard? Yeah. But the word and the term woke has been used as a catch-all for people who
Well, the
don't have
word
the
at this point
comprehension.
means nothing.
Yeah.
At this point, the word's
Yeah.
lost all meaning because people have overused it to the point where it means nothing. It's just a buzzword now. It doesn't mean anything at this point. It's just like, oh, okay, you're like that. When you use that word, it tells me you're unintelligent. Can't come up with like an intelligent way of criticizing something or critiquing.
Now you're 100% right, and there are certain situations where there is some overboard that has been breached. There are certain things, and that's up to the writers in the narrative. But when I hear woke, it's not somebody critiquing a specific thing that may have gone too far. They're critiquing the general representation of what was not normally represented. I heard somebody bitching and moaning about the Sandman, about Mason Alexander Parks playing Desire. He's a transgender individual who is amazing, by the way. He has an amazing voice, and he is wow. Where was I when this guy's career was off? I'm glad to have found him. But there's like, oh, they're making these woke characters, and how come it's got to be a transgender? Well, because Desire represents a lot of aspects of Desire that's male and female, and he was that. And I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to get to the pronouns, so I'm missing they. Are being represented perfectly. But if you're somebody that grew up and you never saw these things being represented, if you never saw a guy that's a president or a woman president or things president, if you never saw their points of view being fleshed out on TV, you're thinking it's woke because the representation that you got came from your point of view. But newsflash, the world is a bigger place than just what you grew up with. It's not woke. You're the one waking up, in my opinion. And that's just my point of view coming from somebody who, like I said, has had to perceive the world from the shoes of a black person, an optimistic black person, because I grew up on an Air Force base with multicultural, multiracial, and I grew up in LA. So we were a melting pot. I never had a chance for these things to settle in. The biggest thing for us was when there was gay people in high school, because that was still relatively, you weren't coming out when I was in high school. You put your life in danger. So just imagine somebody who had to grow up and just for being who they were, their life was in danger to now being able to express themselves in their point of view in entertainment that never represented them before. Now, for somebody who never had to have that representation, maybe that's too much. But I always try to look at things from the point of view of the other person, even as a minority. So woke, I hate the term. It's overused. And what's the other word? A social justice warrior. Yeah, when you're not ever being the person being fucked by the previous justice happening, the social justice is always going to offend you because from your point of view, what's with all this? How come these guys are this? How come it all be that? Well, you never had to answer that question. We've been asking that question since we've been on the planet. So try to look at the world through a lens that's different than the one that some of the previous people grew up with. We're walking alongside you now. All right? Look around. You've been able to look straight forward because you had no reason, but look around you now. These people, these situations, these issues have always been there. We just never had the clarity to properly represent them. Is it going to be perfect all the time? No, but it's growth. All right, it's growth. So
yeah,
that's my point of view. That's probably going to destroy. But
yeah. What? So I gotta get going because I gotta do some things. But are you gonna do like the private watch along for All Out?
I don't think so, simply because that's happening right at the same time Game of Thrones is happening. House of the Dragon.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
So,
no, the pay-per-view the pay-per-view starts at 6, but isn't 6 o'clock to start a 0 hour? Then it's 7 for the main show.
No, I think 0 hour is 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock.
Is it?
Yeah, 5 o'clock is All Out. They only do that. I'll look. And so here's the situation. If there's that time gap, I will do it. You'll see me. I'll do it from our Game of Thrones screening. So I'll invite you guys. I'll send you a link. I sent people a link last time, and not a lot of people came, and then they realized I was doing it after the damn pay-per-views are. Hey man, they're clicking on the link coming into the thing, and like, hey man, I'm all alone in the room. I'm like, dude, the pay-per-view was 2 days ago. Oh man, I'm like, so yeah. If there's time, if I have a gap, because we do at the
No,
bar.
I'm probably gonna watch it on my own,
Yeah.
but just in case, like if I have time and I want to pop in and just say hi or something.
Yeah, I'll probably switch my screens, but once Game of Thrones starts, I'll probably, like I said, this is episode 3. This is going to be probably the most violent episode so far. This is where they do the time jump. They're going to do a 3-year time jump. So this is where you're going to start seeing. This is probably going to be some of the last episodes that you see. Emily Aycock, I think her name is. Yeah, and those characters that's played by those certain actors, unless they're bringing showing them flashback. Because I saw Aegon, the son. You already know that the son is being born, and he's the rightful heir to the throne. And you also see that there's some friction there. So we're starting to move into that territory of where this is going to start being really, really good. So if I have time before, you'll see me in there. But like I said, I will be watching. I will have them on both screens. I will be watching All Out on one screen while I'm watching Game of Thrones on the giant screen. I don't really need to watch Game of Thrones. Why? Because I watch it in detail afterwards. Because during Game of Thrones, I'm talking to people. They're getting their drinks. They're coming up and they're talking to me. They're whispering. We're going outside having conversations. And a lot of the times I rewatch Game of Thrones when I get home and I can sit back because I like to break it down because there's a lot of Easter eggs in Game of Thrones. That opening credit scene was like 2 hours worth of Easter eggs alone, where the blood is running through the Valyrian freeholds. And once you see that, once people explain to you what the opening scene means, the blood running through the streets from one sickle to another, that's just detail that, a lot of TV shows just do not have. So tomorrow's going to be a good day for me. I get All Out and I get AEW. And like I said, the only thing that's bad thing is that they're happening at the same damn time.
Yeah. I mean, tomorrow should be a good. I think that NXT's doing a show in the afternoon before All Out. I think.
Yeah, see, that's him doing that stuff on Sundays. Remember, NXT used to be relegated to Saturday. So Triple H, listen, I got a lot of hope for Triple H. I think he's got a long way to go because I think Vince permanently entrenched that product in a bunch of things that just don't work anymore. So I'll be watching for Triple H. I think Triple H has a better wrestling mind, but at the same time, he's still part of the WWE product. Even though I'm curious to see what he does on his own, he's still a product. He's spent the majority of his career.
But he's very good at what he does, though. And he knows how to make a compelling show.
He is. But sometimes when you're in the same environment and you've grown up in that same environment, before that, Jean Paul Levesque wasn't that much of anything. He hadn't wrestled that long anywhere else. His entire wrestling executive career, wrestling career, has been in the auspices of what WWE can provide him.
Yeah, but I think with NXT, he's proven himself that he's eclipsed Vince's shadow and's really gone out and done his own stuff, though, to be honest.
I hope so, because I really don't like having the DVR through all that Raw, because there's so much cannon fodder in there to watch so I can get to the good matches. I hope there's a point in time where I can put down my remote control and watch a good episode of Raw from beginning to finish. It hasn't been that way, even under the new regime. But it's just going to take some time, and I agree with you. I just hope we continue to see, as the storylines that he inherited run out, how he handles the bloodline. That's the lasted. I think you were in your teens when the bloodline started. I think I was still in my 30s. So hopefully that's going to be a big thing. I'm going to be watching closely how he handles that storyline more than he handles anything else. So, all right. Well, I will. We'll touch bases tomorrow.
Yeah.
One way or another. I'll probably be online tomorrow. I'll definitely be online doing our Game of Thrones post show. But I might jump on if Enosh isn't doing anything tomorrow. I might jump on and just go over AEW since it is a pay-per-view day, and I won't want to be talking wrestling on the Dragon. So I will probably do if Enosh doesn't have anything going on tomorrow night. I might pop in and just do an AEW breakdown, and then if so, I'll send you a link. All right, man.
I'll talk to you later, William.
All right, thanks for coming by. Yeah, like I said, pretty big day for us wrestling geeks and us fantasy geeks, because pretty big week. If you're a fan of both House of the Dragon and Lord of the Rings, and you're a wrestling fan. Wow, you were eating pretty damn good. All right, let's go into the chat, because I know while I was talking to RJ, I kind of missed a lot of people here. All right, start. Okay, so see, now I got to go to where your original contents. All right, so give me go soon. Yeah, I can't wait to have that device that can break all this down. Yeah, at this point, yeah, they do. Um, um, the Rock isn't enough for. Unfortunately, this movie has been given has had a lot more pressure put onto it than that character should have ever had put on it. But because the previous things have been mismanaged, you now need a Cavill. You now need a connection to things for so many reasons. You need to let people know that the time that they invested in watching Cavill grow as Superman and all these other characters wasn't wasted. That's the biggest thing. You have to send out a signal that the time, the 9 years that we spent invested in these characters, isn't just going to be thrown away. And at the very least, is going to get some type of resolution. Do I need it to go on forever? No, but I need to see more Cavill than I have. I need to see where these characters go. I need to have it resolved. Not restore the Snyderverse, resolve the Snyderverse. After that, move on to whatever you want to. But if you move on with a half-finished product that you have to keep restarting, eventually fans are going to get exhausted. They're just not going to give you the time of day anymore. You can only fool fans so many times before they just say, you know what, I think I'll stick with this other thing. So yes, rational. They definitely need. It has to happen at this point. Make it happen, Dallas. All right, I will pray to God that Henry Cavill is in Black Adam talking to him. Man. Yeah, that makes them one of them. Either he is talking to Amanda Waller or Black Adam is talking to Amanda Waller. One of the two. I would love to have her in it. It makes so much sense for her to be there, and that's a connection to all the other universes that we have going on. All right, Black Star Afro. The Rock is not doing a proper promotion or putting the same amount that he did with other. Okay, I think he's doing more than he's supposed to be doing. Listen, The Rock is a star of the movie, but it's the studio's movie. It's the studio's job to promote that movie. They literally have a department, an entire big giant tower of ability. Every studio has it. That is their job to promote this movie. The star of the movie can only promote it that much. He's the actor. His job is to act, and he does a really good job of promoting it. But he's no way The Rock is going to be able to promote that movie as good as if Warner Brothers puts their strength behind it. When Warner Brothers wants to promote something, they promote the hell out of it. So the Suicide Squad, James Gunn's Suicide Squad, we got all kinds of stuff to promote that movie. That movie was on everywhere. That movie's commercials were everywhere, doing all kinds of sports. So when they want to do it, they do it. It's not the job. I mean, you can make the argument that he could do a better job, but ultimately, it's the studio's job to promote the movie. All right, they're the ones with the most money on the line. He's getting paid no matter what, but they're the ones who borrow the money. They're the ones who have to pay the loans back. They're the ones who have to pay the back end deals and the bonuses for people like that. It's incumbent upon them to be the ones, the chief people promoting the movie. And if you get some promotion from The Rock or anybody else in the movie, that's great. That's a bonus. But the primary people that should be promoting this movie is always going to be the studio. So yeah, and they haven't done a good job. All right, they haven't done a good job. So I hope it gets better. We got some time. It's September 4th. We got just over a month and a couple of weeks. I hope it gets it starts flying off the hook because I'm looking forward to it. All right, Chappie, crossing my fingers, hoping that Kid Cavill Black Adam because this is another headline. I don't think they'll do that. I think once again you'll hear me bring up the word credibility a lot and irrelevance. Even though it is a new regime, if you try too many tricks that people have seen before, people will just give up. And right now, even though fair or unfair, DC Comics, DC Films is flirting with irrelevancy. And that would push them over the edge if you did that. You're almost better than disappointing people by not having them in there than doing something like that. I think they understand this. I think, judging from what Zaslav says, as far as him prioritizing Superman, I think you're going to see a full-blown Cavill. And the reason I think it's going to be Cavill because with all the cutting he's doing and where he wants to go with DC Films, you're not doing that with a new Superman. You don't have that kind of time. And because of the previous regime that preceded you, you don't have that kind of credibility. So the best game in town is Cavill. Let's play that game. All right. Shabby, I'm debating on whether they're going to recast the role of Mira and Aquaman. Lost Kingdom. I don't know. I mean, the Amber Heard situation is a little bit bigger because Johnny Depp is a bigger star, so everything that goes up around him is different than Ezra Miller. Ezra Miller is not. He's not even a character in the title movie that he's being made to. So Amber Heard they're going to have to weigh whether Amber Heard's inclusion in this movie is enough to drive fans away. Now, they made a decision based on the previous regime made a decision based on a court case that went against Johnny Depp that they didn't want any involvement with him. I thought that was the wrong decision because months later, a court here in America found in her favor. So you should have let the process run out. I don't think Amber Heard, one way or another, moves the dial, either keeping somebody from seeing a movie or going to a movie. Either way, and why recast somebody if they, if you're not going to change the status quo, there's no reason to cast anybody, reshoot, and pay extra money. That's my opinion. All right. Okay, so right. Okay, yeah, we were looking at that. All right, so to me, it's almost like people who get mad when they show black and Latino cowboys in modern Western movies, even though that's a story. Yeah, I see people who do that all the time. Spaghetti westerns were some of the people who got it right when they're making those things from Italian back when Clint Eastwood got his feet in the ground. What people got to understand that every time you see a person of Latin descent, you're not looking at something that's not American necessarily, or some kind of immigrant. And there's nothing wrong with immigration. But just for when you think of places like San Diego, San Antonio, Los Angeles, places that had those names long before there was an America, who do you think was roaming around the Southwest during those times? Who do you think made up the majority of the population before we became a country? Who do you think named these places? Who do you think was there? All right? Who do you think was roaming places like San Bernardino? Who do you think was roaming places like El Paso? Who do you think was living there? They were there before there was a country. So, of course, there's going to be cowboys depicted in those movies. But I always hear that, they're adding a Latino guy because it's woke and everybody's got to be included. I'm like, historically, what's wrong with you? Go back to school. Find out who was living in those parts of the country before you say something dumb. So, yeah, it's just, yeah. All right. Don't flip 113. How you doing? What type of alien gave the species? Technically, that's what happened in the movie. There you go. I answered the question. Hilarious. RJ, I'm 90% capital back. Told me at Warner Brothers a lot. Yeah. We'll just have to wait and see on that one. All right, people who are watching, let's hit the like button for William and a Point Extra Lounge too. I don't get a lot of time to stream with Enoch lately because of our schedules and he's been super busy. But yeah, you're supporting his network while you're doing that, and all your super chats and all that. You're keeping the Point Extra Lounge running. And Buy Bully Sticks is his sponsor that he's got going on there. So yeah, support us all. Because Mira's a cool character. That's kind of a shame. Like I said, I don't think you have anything to worry about. I just don't think the situation with Amber Heard pushes the needle for the general audience so that they would have to make a change out of the way. Things could change. Things could get uglier, but as of now, I just don't think it. All right. Yeah, I don't think he'll show up for just, to be Rocket Raccoon's assistant or something like that. If he's going to do it, once again, money is part of it, but prestige is part of it too. Actors, once they get to this role, this level in their career, the money and the prestige walks hand in hand. So yeah, I think it would be a pretty big character if they did it. So let's see. Yeah, I mean, I never thought, when these comic book movies first started that we would be able to get this kind of talent. But then, you see guys like Viola Davis, Academy Award winner. You see, and like I said, academies were a big deal for me growing up. So when I see people with that type of classification, Anthony Hopkins, one of the greater actors, these comic book movies are just as good as any movie. That's why when I hear people knock them, I'm like, these are roles. These are legitimate roles for these people to take. Denzel Washington, multiple Academy Award winner. Henry Cavill all signed up for Phase 5. Yeah, these are a good crop of people. But once again, any one of these people that are on this list, could also take a job with Warner Brothers in a heartbeat. If the role is right and the money is right, anybody on this list. So them signing with MCU will be great for their careers. But like I said, it's not like football where a quarterback a guy signs with the Colts and he can't play for the Buffalo Bills. That's sports. In this medium, they can do whatever they want. They can and it's somebody else's job to make the schedules work. All right, well, instead bring the Galactic Civil War for Star Wars Legacy. Maybe there's a lot of stuff I would like to see made canon. I mean, I disagreed with when they went back in Legends and the extended universe, and they took all that stuff out of canon. A lot of the Knights of the Old Republic stuff that was going on then, I thought that was a mistake. I thought that they should have kept that. It did end up interfering with the movies that they were making, and if they could have retconned certain aspects of it. So, but you know what, they did what they needed to do to give their creators at that time the freedom to do what they want. Boy, you guys, dude, there are going to be so many people that are. If it's not John Krasinski, man, there's going to be. You guys going to be okay? Is there going to be cities that burn down if this guy doesn't get a role? 4th 1,000. That's congratulations. I always applaud people when they have these projects and they get going. They're like, I will say this over and over again. I said this a damn million times. That people want to stream and in person. The very first step to take to something you want like that is the first one. Most of your friends, most of your family will never take the first step that you've taken to get your movie into production. And it's the same with owning the business. It's the same with getting on YouTube. Anything you want to add a dimension to yourself, the very hardest part is that first step. Most people will never take the first step and even get to where you're at now. They'll talk about it for years. I wish I could have started a YouTube show. I wish I could have owned my own business. I wish I could have made my own movie. And most people, rightfully so, schedules it'll never happen for them. Kids, work, job, life gets in the way. But the fact that you were able to get that going, to take that first step, like I said, a parked car goes nowhere, and your car is now moving. So congratulations. And you know what? I'll get with Enoch to see, if we can promote your movie on here. I'll see what the specifics are of that. I will definitely have you over on my channel to promote if you want to, because like I said, you are now an independent filmmaker, and I support independent filmmakers any chance and anywhere I can. So congratulations on that, Forrest. And let's see, it's not about women or black people in prominence. The people who champion it who are the problem, like Anita Sarkeesian. And yeah, you're gonna have those people. Like I said, are there situations where it goes overboard, it goes too far, where it's not representation, it's just symbolism? Yeah. But a lot of that, if you're going to have an issue with that, have an issue with that person. Like, so say if Joe Smoke comes out and he's misrepresenting it and he's taking it to a realm where it doesn't need to be with the representation, that's not representation. That's actually sensationalism. And if you have an issue with that person, go after that particular person by name and their interpretation of that interpretation. That's fine. Now, everybody should be open to criticism, but when you hear the words woke and social justice warrior, it seems to be a blanket theme. That's my problem. If you have an issue, and I've seen plenty of movies where I thought the representation did go overboard, because I think there is a such thing as overrepresentation. Having black people in the movie doesn't necessarily mean that you're representing us right. Every black person is different. Every black person is black in their own way and in their own part of the world, their own city, and their own neighborhood. We all have different experiences, even though we all have one commonality among us. So there are certain things where the representation becomes a story. Like with Star Trek, I'm happy that there is a black captain in Cisco. I'm happy to have that representation for him to be the first one of prominence in that role, in that rank, in that character. However, it's done right because Cisco is not the story. So that's up to the narrator and the writer of the story. And you can hold those people's feet to the fire. But where the situations that I'm commenting about is when it becomes a blanket statement that every time there is any representation, instead of analyzing if what is proper or not, that person from a point of view that's pretty much been overly represented, which decides that that's social justice or that's woke. And I think that's unfair, and I think that devalues the conversation. So, yeah, I agree with what you're saying, but we have to take it on a case by case basis. And the word woke now is not being taken on a case by case basis a lot of time. It's being used as a blanket filter for anything that is not the norm or has not been normally represented. And so that's where I have an issue. All right, Aaron. I remember back in the early 2000s, the word woke was a positive thing. Yeah, yeah, I remember that as well. I mean, I'm old enough to remember that time where woke was because the not being conscious, not being awoke, was considered a lower form of train of thought, and it usually happened for most people. Like I said, and it wasn't when you said that to somebody. It was usually a transition from the life that they were living and into seeing things people of other people's from a point of view. You were awakened. It wasn't used as a derogatory form to other people. It was okay. Hey, I grew up, as a white guy my entire life, and now I'm seeing with my black neighbor who I didn't know because we never had these conversations had to go through, and now I'm understanding. At that one, that still doesn't become the story, but it's a level of understanding that I think we all have to have if we're going to live alongside each other with these different lifestyles that are coming out. If you don't understand transgender and gay lesbian, that's one thing, but you should be tolerant enough to understand that that person is living life through their eyes as well, and you don't see that. So yeah, back in the 2000s, that was the beginning of us at least trying to make a leap forward to understand. But like I said, these things happen too fast for people. But if it's happening fast for you, just imagine the person who's been waiting all their life for it to happen. So he is, and man, there's a YouTube video where he is singing the song Desire. And his brain, I'm like, and he's a singer too because he sings Rocky Horror. We do Rocky Horror at my place. So I'm a big fan of Rocky Horror. And he was singing one of the main lines that Frankenfurter singing the Sweet Transvestite, Sweet Tea. And whoa, my goodness. And like I said, I just found out about this guy or them. There I go again. Ugh, dude, I'm going to have to get a swear jar. That's the transition I'm going to make, but I'll be okay. When watching Sandman, that's the first time I ever saw Mason Alexander Price. First time I'd ever heard of him. First time I'd ever seen him. And wow, now I want to see everything he's in or they're in. He's a very, very talented performer. And the fact that he's transgender means nothing to me as far as it does not hinder his ability. I think he could play. They could play a role of non-transgender if he wanted to, but non-binary if they wanted to. I don't think that there's limitations of what this guy can or what they can perform. I don't. I think an actor at this point is an actor or an actress or however they call it. Mason is. Like I said, I look forward to seeing this person, them, in every format that I can, and. You know what? 10, 15 years ago, even I wasn't as open-minded. You know what? That lifestyle was something, like I said, when I was a kid growing up, living a lifestyle other than heterosexual or growing up in heterosexual could have gotten you killed. And I'm not joking. It could have gotten you beat up. In certain parts of the country, even if you were a full-blown gay person, your life depended on nobody finding out about it. You went to places where you were surrounded by. So I grew up in an era where you didn't know about that unless you found out about that, unless that person told you or openly. And later on in life, they were always there, but they weren't prevalent. They weren't because it wasn't safe, to be honest with you. So now I'm having to, it's up to me to make the adjustment to going from a kid where all this was behind closed doors to now people being able to live their lives out in the open and having to address that myself. That's an adjustment I have to make. And as you can see with the pronouns, I'm fucking it up all the time, but I'm making that effort. That's an effort that I have to make. And that person doesn't have to change themselves. I just have to now recognize that person's in. And that's the same thing with the entertainment world. These things have been around. It's just the fact that we kept them under cover because it was not convenient for us to address. So That was a lot. I hope I didn't shoot myself in the foot with that, with my where I'm coming from with that. I hope you all understand where I'm going with that because, like I said, I'm open minded. I'm open to everything, but my mind was geared a certain way for so long that now these things are changing. And in order for me to be inclusive and be correct, I'm having to change my mindset after a lot of years on the planet. So, all right. Man hating, no? I don't know where that came from. Honestly, the word woke is it's very annoying. It's very annoying. And I wish people would understand that there are conversations to be had. There are adjustments to be made. There are people I know that are in their 50s and 60s that, like I said, were had their mind trained to hate gay people because they never even met one that are now making that adjustment to where this is an American citizen living right beside you, paying taxes, living their lives, working their jobs, contributing to society just like you are. Have a conversation with somebody. One of the greatest things that ever happened to me, besides growing up on an Air Force base and being a third generation military person, is growing up on an Air Force base and joining the military. My entire adult life has been in the compass of either being a former veteran or being in the military or being the child of a vet. And I never, these things never got a chance to grab hold of me in that manner. So I got to meet, you couldn't tell me about a stereotype about an Asian person. I grew up next to Asian people. You couldn't tell me a stereotype that was sticking about a Hispanic person because my best friends were. And these cultural differences didn't set into me until later in high school, especially in Southern California. And it was really when the Rodney King riots happened to where these scabs were ripped open. And we had to have conversations that, as a kid, I didn't have to have. They were history books. As a black person in Southern California, I was just fine. On an Air Force base, I was as safe as you could be. But when the history of us in this country does not resemble what I grew up, and I have to understand that as I grew up on an Air Force base where nothing was going to harm me, there was somebody living the same life in Alabama, in Louisiana, or in places where the Klan was still roaming free when I was a kid. So we have to understand that your upbringing is not everyone else's upbringing, and people have to understand that there's different walks of life that are just now coming out into the fold that they're part of the American tapestry, man. So, and like I said, I'm having to make that adjustment just like anybody else, and I'm going to screw it up a lot until it sets in. But I implore people to at least try to make the adjustment. That's all I'm saying. All right, big city stuff, Bat City stuff. It's Spider-Man. Loaded special effects look really good. What are your thoughts on the whole situation? I stayed away from that. I'm sorry, dude. I know when that situation came out, I saw some controversy going around it. It was on some of the streams that was on, and I kind of purposely avoided those situations because I didn't know enough about it, and I just didn't have a point of view that I thought I could make it better. I've heard some surface stuff about it. It's sad that person's work has to be attached to this. But, like I said, I don't have a real good opinion on that. There will come a time where I address it. It's kind of like the Ezra situation with me. I've been trying to stay away from those things because there's so many other streams that can attack those, and they do. And my stream, I try to keep it going in a way that doesn't touch on that yet until I'm more. So get with me next week. Like I said, now that I'm back in the fray and I'm doing more live streams, I'm bound to have to adjust it. So sorry about that. All right, the new WB guy, from what I have read, is more interested in Naked and Afraid movie than anything that costs money to make. That is actually not true. You also have to realize that he's coming to a situation where his predecessors bled out a lot of money. And he has shareholders that have inherited. Not only did they pay $43 billion or $46 billion for a devalued company that started out at $74 billion, he also, as a part of that merger, inherited $43 billion of debt. So there's a lot of cutting that had to happen from day one, minute one, second one. He is willing to spend money, judging from what he's greenlit, on things that are a priority to him and the stockholders. Like cutting stupid shit like Wonder Twins is a benefit to us and the stockholders. But if a Superman movie came out or Game of Thrones, another spinoff Game of Thrones, and the max amount of money is required, David Zaslav is going to spend the money that adds value to his company. He won't spend that kind of money on everything, as any company should not. There are priorities here. With Warner Brothers prior, there were no priorities. Some of these things should have never, that they're having to cut should have never even been greenlit. So they're inheriting that situation. So no, you're probably not going to see it. Naked and Afraid is a very popular movie, popular show, but its money is an ad revenue. It's on TV. So, all right, that dude Vance William. If you need some good tutorials of setting up a stream, check it. I've been checking out a lot of streams, and as you can kind of see, I am improving little by little. A lot of the improvements that I am going to be able to institute have to do with the space in my current setup where I'm at right now, both at the center and here. There's a lot of equipment that's coming in that we haven't used yet, and you won't see me use until I get the right spacing, the right setup. Like this behind me won't be there. I'll be over there, and the wider breadth of it, and it'll actually be further away from me. And I'll have my championship belts, like kind of like when you watch Don Campion, he has his pop figures and all that on there. I'm gonna have a setup like that, so where you see some really cool stuff, and you have a wide shot of me and a wide shot. Thank you for the info, but yeah, I've been checking out a lot of tutorials from a lot of the different people, not just the setup, but just the stream, the content, everything else. So I have watched some hour-long ones. I've watched some 5-10 minute ones. I've watched some bigger named ones. That's where like the stream deck. That's where I'm getting that from. That's I'm learning the importance of having good sound, because that microphone that I had, it wasn't just good enough to have a microphone, but I needed to have a microphone with a condenser that went good. Me playing around with the camera yesterday with the green, finding out, learning how to troubleshoot and get a good camera in. So the next time you see me at the center, there will be no green hue because I sent that camera back. There's a lot that I'm learning, and I'm hitting up those tutorials. So, and like I said, a lot of it is I'm a guy that likes to use equipment too to make things easier. I like to have things at the touch of a finger. So having certain devices at my disposal is going to make things a lot more seamlessly to me. But as you can kind of see, if you look at my first shows, up to these shows, I think I've gotten incrementally better. I think I'm getting better. I think I'm looking better. I think I'm sounding better. So I think once the finished product goes, and I got everything that I need, and I've learned everything. I learned at least half of what I know. I think I'm going to. It's gonna be a lot more polished shows, and we're gonna look at those old shows. Once we get all the equipment and I get to where I want to be, I'm gonna look at some of those first shows and laugh at myself. So, but thank you, dude. I'm definitely on the ball as far as being open to suggestions and tutorials, because that's how I got to where I am right now. Oh, I'm not okay. Who has a check mark on Twitter? I missed a guy. All right, let's see. Word wokeness. I think we hit that. Go back. Okay, so I just want to make sure. National Skeptic, Marcus Cruz. He's verified. I guess we're talking about who's verified, guys. I must have missed that. So, okay. All right, Chappie. By the way, William, I forgot to ask, what's the deal with that Variety article saying that Warner Brothers is releasing Zack Snyder Justice League, even though they know it's from up. All right, so this is hilarious. Certain people, certain insiders, translations to people who have been replaced or fired. I hate to be petty, but that's pretty much what it is. People who have been replaced, fired, or are on their way out and no longer have standing in the company. That's who those people are to me. All right. They're the only people that would not see the value in having made that. They were the only people who couldn't see the value of not screwing with the movies to begin with. So none of the new people seem to have that lack of regard. So when you hear about, and Variety, like I said, and and the Rolling Stone article, these articles, say what you want to say, but understand that there's a difference between an editorial and a news article. You know, when back in the old days when we watched news and the newscaster, the credible newscaster, was about to give his opinion about something, right behind them there would be something that said editorial, or the views of so and so reflect this. They don't seem to have to do that this day because there's a gray area between these articles and basically hearsay and basically saying what they want to say as far as their article go. But they're always nameless, they're always faces. But I guarantee you, if any of them are real, it's because they're gone. And they don't like their decision making, their course that they changed. The problem is with these guys that they had 5 some odd years to change their course and take it somewhere, and they didn't. they had the opportunity not to change the course from Zack Snyder unless they had something better. If the people who made these changes and are now speaking up in these articles and having all these regrets had something in place that would have blown our socks off, yeah, some of us 1 or 2% would have been angry that we didn't get our Zack Snyder. Boo-hoo for us. But the vast majority of people would have connected, and if you would have gone on, and essentially they would have won us over. But the fact that these people who now have a lot to say didn't have a lot of productivity and creativity and effectiveness during the time that they had Warner Brothers Discovery or Warner Brothers under their thrall. They had their chance to talk. They had their chance to act. They had all these years. And what did they do? They released Birds of Prey. They released Suicide Squad out of sequence. They came up with things like Batgirl. They came up with things like Wonder Twins. That's what they had. They spoke. That is, they when they had their chance to speak, they spoke by the projects that they put out. So now that they're on their way out, I don't really want to hear from them. Start putting names as these sources. I want to hear whether it's the regime that's incoming or the regime that's outgoing, because I don't want to. I've already heard what the outgoing regime had to say via their product, right? And that's all I need to hear. So that's my opinion on that one. So, all right, let's see. That's what I try to do, and like I said, I'm a little bit behind on certain topics, like the one that was brought up before, because I and this is one of the cooler things about having a weekend show, because I give some of these topics time to breathe and time to get argued and shouted out over on other streams, and I get more time to look at different points of view, and then I can come in without looking stupid. Sometimes the situation changes. We're in the internet age where situations evolve from 1 minute to another, either ever evolving situations. You may hear news at 5 o'clock that changes by 9 o'clock. What was news yesterday and relevant and true yesterday, when you wake up in the morning, might not be true. So I always implore people to not always be first, but and not necessarily always be right, but just pay attention. And sometimes there's not a response. Sometimes there's not going to be an automatic response. Just because there's something out there doesn't mean that, there are certain situations I didn't touch because I didn't think I had anything to add to the situation. The Ezra situation with the reservation, the reservation police, and the grooming, all that. If you notice, I'm very uncomfortable on the other streams that I'm on, and sometimes I get out of there. And you never hear a lot of those situations on my stream simply because I don't have anything to add to them, and all it does is create tension where we don't have an end game, we don't have a resolution. We're just tightening the knot that 1,000 other people have already tightened. So I try to keep it tame on here. I try to adjust people's opinions. I don't call people's name. Not everybody puts in an opinion that I agree with, but you know what? You took your time out of your day to sit down and look at a screen with my ugly face on it and to engage me in a conversation. I try to engage you as much as possible. All right, desire makes me think of a cat. And say, yeah, well, they have a tail and cat ears, and maybe that's what attracts me. But yeah, the Sandman. There's so much about the Sandman that just hit it dead on, and that character was one of them. All right, so who would you cast in the future Quest movie? My pick for Dr. Quest has always been Ewan McGregor. It's a tough one. Ewan McGregor's a good choice. It all depends on what type of script that they're writing. Are you doing it as a midway paced movie to where it's more of a cerebral movie? Are we doing this as an action movie? Is your script aimed towards millennials and people of that generation, or is it aimed towards contemporaries like myself, or is it aimed in both? Some of those questions would probably determine who you pick, because you're going to probably want to pick somebody who resonates with those things. But Ewan McGregor is one of those guys that does. I don't know what kind of money he'd be asking for what would probably be a midway budget film. Who would I cast? It's hard to say because, wow. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily need to cast an Indian or a Persian person for Turnbull, because the Hispanic person is an actor that can play that role just fine. I don't know, dude. That's a tough one. I'm never going to be good at these questions. Anybody you throw up, I think, could do it. But like I said, a lot of it will pertain on what kind of quest movie we're talking about. I mean, that is going to determine whether if it's an Indiana Jones type situation to where a lot of it is action based. I'm going to need somebody who's a better action person than a cerebral person. Andrew Good, Matthew Good. Matthew Good, if you've ever seen Watchmen, he played Ozymandias. If you ever seen The Offer, which is a movie about the Godfather, he plays Robert. He plays the main producer over at Paramount, who was running the show. Miles Teller. I mean, there's a lot of actors that come up in my head that I've seen in other things. They don't necessarily fit physically, mentally, or not physically, but the visual thing. But you know what? So I'm in a makeup chair. They can become whatever I need to. So there's some actors that I would put. As far as Dr. Zen, that's a tough one. The dude from Big Bang Theory has always been a guy that I thought of in that role. It's a tough one, man. These get tougher every time, damn it. Sorry if I didn't completely answer that question. Ask me that question in a couple of weeks. So give me time to think about it. All right. So Michael Frayer Jr. does nothing but tutorials and interactive with his live streams. I will let me type myself an email. Yeah, I'm always looking for new ways. A lot of the stuff I've seen has already been pre-recorded. Some of it's dated. I even watched Don Campia's How to Get a YouTube Channel Started. But my main importance with John Campia is the type of streams, type of stuff that he was using prior to him getting Jonathan Boykman as a producer. Because now if you watch the John Campia show, he doesn't do a lot. He has his laptop in front of him, and he basically has Jonathan, fact checker Jonathan, producing the show. Me, I'm going to be more like what he was before fact checker Jonathan goes, because I'm going to mostly be doing this on my own. So I need to know how to integrate my devices that I got coming in the mail into some of the things I want. I have to know a distance and stuff like that. I have to test out a lot of the stuff. Like I said, this is where I'm dealing with now because this is the space I have. But as I clear out things, I get more spaces. How good do I look from a distance? What kind of lighting? Dude, the lighting is going to be – there's a lighting tutorial, I think, that's on there that is going to be my Bible. So, yeah, I'm going to be absorbing a lot of the stuff. So, Michael Fryer, I just sent myself an email on that one. So thank you, that dude Vince. I got him on the docket. He will be one of many that I'm exploring. All right. And don't regret releasing Josh's thing. I guarantee you this is someone in the old regime. Yeah. Someone thought that was great. You know what? A lot of general audience people thought it was great. Thank goodness now that they have Zack Snyder's Justice League to let them know how many holes that movie had and how, you know, how much better that the movie could have been. Now, will we have gotten a 4-hour Justice League? No, but we would have gotten a much more complete and a much more movie that was a long line of the director's vision than we got. So, yeah, those guys, yeah. The mindset of the previous regime was mind-blowing. Don't know, dude. I don't know. I thought of movies that it could be. Unless they're going to move up a movie. Unless they're planning on moving up The Flash because it's already done. If they can get their post-productions and they're cutting and they're adding to that before then, maybe they decide that they want to capitalize on the momentum of I don't know. I really don't know. And none of my intermediates know too. I wish I had an answer for you, but I don't want to blow smoke up your ass because I really don't know. My only guess would be The Flash because there's really nothing else that we know that they've made a priority to put out there. And, you know, there's not a secret movie that's in production. So whatever they're moving, I'm thinking is going to be something that's already in production that's already slated for a later release. That's my guess. But that's just a guess. I have no inside information on that one. All right. The Suicide Squad was a good movie, but it was just in the air. Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't have been. Okay, so there's two frames of thought about the Suicide Squad. My frame of mind is that it should not have been even made. Even though I enjoyed the movie, I liked the movie, even like Peacemaker. But in the lexicon of trying to gain momentum for your franchises and to strengthen and have interdependency on the films, and yes, you need a shared media universe to do that. It didn't fit anywhere. You released this really good movie out on an island where it could support nothing but Peacemaker, and you already had made that decision before you knew how that Suicide Squad was going to do. So you basically took the performances and the work of a director and mismanaged them, in my opinion. When you have to release these movies when it's time and in the right atmosphere and in the right timing, or else they're out on the island on themselves and nobody had any reason to go see that movie. Not enough people for what they spent. All right, let's see. Okay, that will happen, but there's different situations. I don't know if we were there for when we did the tour of the center, and then we built a lot more into it since then. The Sci-Fi Center is very cavernous, and there's not a lot of. You'll see when I do the single stream or where I do the re-recorded stuff to do the highlights on graphic novels and stuff, and the as seen on TVs and stuff. You'll see that I'm in very cramped areas, but in those areas that I'm in, where I can have my sister edit the product and basically make it look a lot better. For a live stream, there's a lot that I would have to currently do that I do not have the capacity set up for now, and I will. Hold on. Okay. I will get to that point. Right now, at the same time you see me adding these things to my home studio, my office studio, I'm adding those same things. Like there's different setups and cameras. If you look at me today on MaxStream, I had a different angle. The Sci-Fi Center is also a retail location where people were walking through all different parts of it. So where I would have to set up for that particular amount of time, given the way my store is set up, I would have to shut off that section, and there's a lot of merchandise in that section that sells. So the only way I could do it is if I'm doing it after the store closes. We keep pretty late hours because I'm in Vegas. It's the same reason why it's harder for me to do the stream at all on Friday shows, because I'm doing it in the middle of a live running retail location during 6 o'clock, 6:30 on a Friday night. It's really tough. So that's why you see me doing less and less streams from there, because of the fact that wherever I set up takes away from my retail area. I have 1,200 square feet, and it's packed. It's literally, if you go into the center, the comic book section literally touches the ceiling, the 10-foot ceiling, and goes all the way down to the bottom. The Star Wars section has shelves that go from the bottom all the way up to the top, and they're filled to the gills with merchandise. The Star Wars section is where we will eventually be doing our live streams when I do go back to doing, because it's the only area in the store that does have the distance, and I can affix cameras to certain things and fold them in and out without disrupting the store. I'm getting the equipment to do that, and that's why I haven't streamed to the store like that. When you see me stream from the store, that's not the A product. When you see me streaming once I'm in the Star Wars section and I have everything set up and the light is right, that's why I'm getting to that point. So to answer your question, I will stream more from the store once I have the equipment there to do so. Like I said, some of the stuff ain't cheap. I know people might think I have a little bit more money than I do, but I'm running a small business in a post-code area, so I got to be careful on where I spend. And I'm not a YouTuber that makes money off of YouTube right now. Who knows? I want to get to that point, but right now my main focus is on a lot of our people who jump on our Google and find us throughout the internet watch these videos. So a lot of stuff you see me that I'm setting up for is to promote my store and to promote my brand. The live streaming is part of that, but the primary thing is to promote the Sci-Fi Center brand, to promote that logo anywhere I can see it. And like I said, I hope tourists are watching this. Not so much the live screens as they are the others, like my tutorials, my seen on TV. So it'll get better. Right now, it's just the de-getification has just begun. It'll reach a finish point. But thanks for the question, man. All right, let's see. Started watching Campbell because of you guys. I like their their format is cool, and he's got a new format on there that he has a longer desk. I like the format that he had prior to going with the producer, but I understand why he went to producer, because you could do a lot more. Like right now, if I had a producer, there's less things for me to screw up. I can just stare into the screen and look at the chat, and I can have, like, he has a guy that's in the chat room with him. His brother-in-law Ray is running the chat and bringing up things in the chat, and he has that screen that they both share. And I could just sit back and shoot the shit with you guys and be like, bam, 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 and not share anything on the screen until I want to. Or if I want to, I could say, hey, Jonathan, go ahead and bring that up. or go ahead and let's switch to the screen. So the person who I'm talking to that's on the other side of the screen knows that when we start talking about Moon Knight, he knows to bring on Moon Knight to the screen behind me. Now, when we switch over to this side of the building, I'm going to have a screen behind me. So when we start talking about wrestling, we start talking about any topic, I will be able to use my Stream Deck to switch to the screens. If I have a side, I want to have a side angle, so we have a different side angle because there's going to be things I want to show you guys that maybe not be in the set on camera. So I'm going to be spacing for that. Well, but like I said, I'm a new YouTuber. I watched YouTube. I watched John Campia's show for a while, but as far as actively participating in it, I got into this because I was sending video questions in the Dave the Film Junkie stream, and Enosh was on a show, and then I was watching Enosh's stream, and he did a call-in stream, and that's how I got in. That's all like a year ago. So I'm an infant when it comes to this stuff and the look and the feel and what I want to sound. But as I get further on, I'm coming to an understanding, and I'm starting to troubleshoot a lot better than I was before. Let's see. Yeah, I've heard that too. And when I bought my other stuff online, those pop up. Those pop up, and it says other buyers also bought this. And there's a couple other There's like I said, I don't use a ring light here right now because I don't, this is okay for what we're doing right now. But when I move to the other side, I have ordered a really big ring light that has a lot more capabilities than the little handheld one I have at the store. So when I have several ring lights because when I go from a different angle, I want to be lit properly from that angle. Whereas sometimes if you guys see me at the store, when I move to another angle or when I move the camera, I'm completely in shadows. I'm already dark. Now my entire face is completely in shadows. I want to be able to go to Stream Deck and manipulate the lights without having to get up and move anything. So I'm learning. All right, take us on the line. I did it a month ago, but Clint, who works for me, he's in the chat. He'll tell you how much the store has changed. So once I get the Star Wars section 100% complete and I get the studio set up, we are going to do a stream where I do a virtual tour for everything, and I will answer questions about merchandise in the store, the equipment we use, the setup, the views of certain things, all that. So that is forthcoming. All right, what advice would you give somebody that's thinking about opening up a comic book store? Like I said before, the most important part is to begin. Limit how much you are talking about shit and how much you are doing shit because you can talk yourself into never happening. That's the philosophical advice. Now what I call the nuts and bolts advice. Find a place that has cheap overhead. A lot of places back when I first opened up, if you didn't have proper frontage, you were going to go out of business if you didn't have the kind of foot traffic that expensive shopping malls had for you. That is no longer a case. There's this thing called the internet that brings people to you, and GPS that brings people to you, and Google that helps. Right now, I opened my store in 1995. COVID excluded because obviously COVID affected everybody. Since I moved to my new location, which is not the most blatant place to find, it's not necessarily on the street, but it's in a pretty well-known plaza. I've done better here at my current location, which is not a very expensive street front location, than I have in the entire 27 years that I've been at this. So find yourself a location. If you can find one for cheap for square footage that fits the frontage needs, do so. But that's not that's not a deal killer. You need to find a place that has other things around you, a good restaurant, a place of business that constantly has foot traffic. And those places are more important because if you move to an expensive plaza and nobody can afford the rent, you're going to be by yourself until you go out of business. Use the internet. Use the internet like you use your feet and to walk and your hands to grasp things. When I first opened up the internet was in its infancy. We had chat rooms, we had AOL, and there was no Instagram. There was no way to project yourself. And you had to be in the front on West Sahara, on Las Vegas Boulevard for anybody. You had to depend on people to walk to you. Now with these little inventions that that have been invented since then, cell phones, GPS, people are going to find you through Google. Google's important. Make sure you use the internet. Make sure you set up your internet presence. Get a Google page even before you open your doors. Get a Google page. Get on Instagram. And with all these formats, integrate them all and make sure that you are promoting and posting as much as possible. Use the algorithms. Use the hashtags. I'm taking courses to become better with YouTube equipment and be a better streamer. There are courses about how to use Facebook, how to use YouTube to get your business going, how to associate your product, when to post, when not to post, making sure that whatever you have in your store ends up on a screen for somebody who hasn't seen you yet and hasn't driven down 17 miles across town to see you. Make sure that whatever your point is on that Instagram page, it's on that YouTube page, your website. Make sure that all your social media is integrated within your main website. Even though people don't use website as much as me, people still use them. I track my traffic on my website, and I get thousands of people that still go through there. Make sure your comic book store tells a story, and not just the stories that you sell. I always tell people that I'm not here to sell you a comic book. I'm not here to sell you an item. I'm here to sell you a story. If you sell somebody a story, you keep them engaged for the rest of their life. I'm still existing on stories that my comic book store owner back in the 80s and 90s turned me on to. The way I look at my collection, the way I look at collecting and all these things, the whole hobby was based on the way what I was turned on to. Anybody can sell a comic. Anybody can sell a toy. Sell them an entire environment, and make sure you do that. Make sure that if you have a piece of merchandise that is there, make sure that merchandise connects to more than just that piece of merchandise, and turn that person onto an adventure, and get them started. And they'll come back to you. Another thing is to make sure that in this day and era that you are taking advantage of this cinematic universes that are out there now. A lot of people have not been able to put the pieces together because they come from a train of thought and the old school where they don't think that the movies mean much. And when a good 60 to 70%, I'm gauging 70 because I'm in a tourist district. Depending on if your neighborhood store is going to be different. These people are walking in. They're wanting to be connected to these IPs. They want to dive into the pool, but they're comic books, if you're a brand new person, is a complex thing. Even if you've been a part of comic books and you've been out and you've gotten back in with all the reboots and the resets and the splintering groups and all that, comic books would be a very complicated thing. So make sure that you're doing what you can to make those IPs as understandable as they were on the screen as to them as they are on paper. You got to make that paper as friendly to them as that screen was, and you just have to educate them and take the time. Make sure you're taking the time to. There are no such things as stupid questions when it comes to comic book store. All right, treat that person as if he's brand new to the game until he tells you otherwise. Make that connection with your customer. Build a place that you wanted to hang out to when you were a kid. Build the kind of store and the kind of environment, whether aesthetically or with the people you surround yourself with, or the kind of content you focus on. Build the same type of place that you wanted to go to as a kid, or that you want to go to now. That's how you transition from a collector, a person who's not owning anything, to owning anything. And not only are the people going to see that you're an element that you're most comfortable with, they're going to be comfortable with your comfort. They're going to be at ease. And when you talk about the environment that you've created, that person's going to be more accepting of you if you believe in what you're selling. So there's a lot of philosophical things about it that go into it. But like I said, begin. That's the first start. Connect with the internet in a way that is, like I said, that is your lifeblood. Make sure that you are connecting, you are as the owner of the store, or making the connection and filling in the gap between the cinematic IP and the comic book IPs that spawn them, because they don't always make that connection. And a lot of people don't want to do the work to do that. It is critical to keeping your store open, and it's critical to keeping you relevant in selling comics. And find your niche. Find, whatever it is that makes you different. You might open up in a place that has 20 other stores, and you might have to be dealing with shared customer clientele. Doesn't mean anything. I legit have a store 600 feet away from me in the other end of the parking lot because the way this commercial center is set up, they're mainly different plazas, so they can do that without violating my lease. But hasn't hurt my sales at all. Other stores being existing, everybody goes. Remember, everybody goes into a particular comic book store or any business for that matter for the connection they make with the guy behind the counter, and that is a connection that you can offer that no one else can offer. There are always going to be people that can outspend you. There are always going to be bigger stores and more resources. Never make that. Never let that stop you from doing what you're going to do. There will always be someone that can outspend you, out-resource you, but there will never be anybody that can out-imagine you. So whoever you are, your strength and your personality is going to bleed into that store, and you make sure that that is the case at all times. That if Giovanni, I'm coming to my store because of the way that you treated me, the way that you turned me on to a certain book, the way that you were always following up with me on things like that, the type of merchandise you sell, the kind of conversations we can have. Just those things. Those are the things that have kept me going, and those are the things that make it fun for me. And lastly, have fun. It's going to be tough sometimes. Bills happen, things happen. But remember, no matter how long you're into it, remember why you got into this. And remember how fortunate you are to be in it. And not only is that how you open up, that's how you stay open. So I hope that wasn't too long-winded, but that's a question that means a lot to me because I've literally lived it. Okay, let's see. Shut down the door, the back door opens, red glowing light. Yeah. I have like I said, another thing that I've learned better to about this whole YouTube thing is I've gotten my sister, that's what she does, is she produces video content. And that's what she does for a living. So now I have her into the fold. She's working on things for me. She started me out with the intro and an outro. She's working on my Game of Thrones intro and outro. She's working on editing. Sometimes she'll be in the chat. She'll be that person that helps produce things for me. And she's got a wealth more knowledge on these things. I'm the tech head, but I'm also busy, and I don't have a lot of time to focus on aspects of the show that to make it better. She does, and she can point these things out to me. So yeah, that kind of stuff is coming. But you're on the right road, Fourth. All right, Chappie. I find it ridiculous. Some people think the Flash is already ruined just because. Yeah. Listen. Most people don't know about this, and like I was telling people before, I'm not going to tell you how to feel morally about what you see these stars doing, but understand that everybody has a different connection to these stars. Some of them is just a base connection, just like athletes. Deshaun Watson is getting $238 million. He has 21 sexual harassment accusations against him that he had to settle out of the court. But if he can put that ball in that hoop, put that ball in the end zone, and you know what? It's not for me to tell people that their connections, and I don't think the connection to Ezra is strong enough to doom this movie. Most people that I engage in, that I talk to, are not aware of this situation. A lot of us are because we're on YouTube. We're in the zeitgeist. Is part of our world, but the Twitterverse is not the world. So we just have to understand that the people who do these analytics understand that the movie's not doomed. Now, full disclaimer once again, if he goes full on Richard Ramirez and bodies start turning up, or he's in a white Bronco in a slow chase down I-15, different story. But as things stand now, I think the Flash will be fine. All right, so yeah, Ezra Miller. If I'm able to move to Vegas next year, are you looking for a janitor? Nah, once I get everything built and done, nah, my place is too small, man. One broom sweep, you're already done. You'd only be busy for about 10 minutes. All right, I guarantee that when the Flash movie comes out, no one is going to. No, not really. We will, but the people, like I said, we're in a bubble. The general public is where the money's made, so we're going to be good there. Yeah, you read it out. But yeah, that's another thing. I'm going to fix that. I'm going to be fixing that. So, all right, guys, it is 12:45 a.m. I have done what I have always promised you when it comes to the Sci-Fi Center overnight. I am your ferryman. I have taken your coin. I have crossed you past the river Styx from what was September 3rd to what is now September 4th. I have taken you from Saturday to Sunday. Depending on where coast you are, I've taken you deeper into Sunday than we are at the West Coast. But I think we're going to wrap it up. I think we've touched a lot of things. I love the fact we had a general conversation, and I hope I wasn't too vague in some of my question answering with you guys. I tried to answer them as best as I can. Certain situations I'm just not up to speed on. So if you ask me those questions again, revisit them after I get a little bit of time to do more research. But when it comes to things like running the store, there is no right answers to that, Giovanni, by the way. Another thing is once you open your store, you're first. Your customer is right there with you as a close second. You have to open a place in an environment that you are happy with and you want to show up to every day. Like I said before, you open up a store, the same type of place that you wanted to show up to as a kid. That goes for the same that once you get the ball rolling. Build a place that you want to be at because it's going to be you. And never forget how many people start a business and fail. And once you make it to the point where you're no longer failing, there's nothing like being at the helm of your own business. There's nothing like touching that wall, flipping on that light switch, and knowing that that's there because of you. There's nothing like when I throw an event and I'm surrounded by collectors and my fellow geeks, knowing that you are the catalyst. You are the reason why these people came together. You are the reason why this brotherhood, for how briefly, long, and short it lasts, you are the reason why they came together. That is a huge source of pride for me. So build a place that makes you happy and that you want to show up into. And by proxy, people are going to be happy with your place. They're going to feel that via you. So I hope I was able to answer all the questions right. Thank you for RJ for stopping in. We were missing Thade tonight for the first time since we've been doing overnighters. I hope he's okay. So I'll check in on him. But I will be back on the air through both my channel, the Sci-Fi Center, which I will go ahead and drop the link in the chat, and I will be doing we'll be doing a simulcast between Poindexter Lounge tomorrow and the Sci-Fi Center's proper site when we go live after Game of Thrones, which will be roughly we'll create the link for it and it'll be on the sites. It'll be Game of Thrones starts at 6:00. It wraps roughly around 6:00, 6:45, 6 o'clock, 7:05. So we try to give people 10 minutes. We'll be in a restaurant bar, get their food, get their drink, sit down. We're gonna probably do some trivia real quick, and we're gonna start out the show discussing with the audience. I'm gonna see if I can get a better mic setup so that you guys can hear the studio audience, and then I'll be answering your questions throughout the night. I will be watching All Out at the same time, trying to fit in as much as I can. And then, like I said, if Enosh is not doing his stream on his, at the same time, I might just jump back on and do an all out post stream. So I'm going to be streaming a lot during this weekend. So I streamed yesterday, I streamed today, stream tomorrow. As I get comfortable and better equipped, I'm going to be streaming a lot more. So I hope you guys appreciate the improvements, the de-ghettoification that this infant YouTuber is making each time you see them. I hope every time you see me, I am adding something new and improved to the show. And like I said, we'll get there. And thank you all for being part of that journey. Have a nice, safe night, everyone, and have a happy Sunday.